Sarah, we are good to go live whenever you are.
Thank you. I will broadcast now. Everybody, please make sure you're keeping your mic and video off until called on by Jamie to speak.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Before we begin, we will hear from Alabama Delegate Aaron Chastain, Vice Chair of Alabama State Bar Young Lawyers Section from Birmingham, Alabama, who will address the Assembly Code of Conduct that you signed and submitted last week.
Hi, my name is Aaron Chastain. I'm a partner at Bradley Arent Bolt Cummings in Birmingham, Alabama. I've had the privilege of serving in the YLD Assembly for over 6 years now, and I've had the opportunity to meet many bright, talented young lawyers from across the country. I've been able to experience viewpoints that I would not have otherwise heard. I've been able to meet people from diverse backgrounds that I would not otherwise have met. And I've been able to engage in civil and productive debates about important issues facing our profession and our community. I want to take a minute to remind all of us about the importance of civility and professionalism during our debates in Assembly. Many times in Assembly, we're addressing topics that have significant political or policy implications, and many of us have strong viewpoints about that. And that's okay. That's part of what a healthy debate entails. But at the same time, it is of utmost importance that we all conduct ourselves in a manner that reflects professionalism, civility, and respect for the speakers of all viewpoints and everyone in the room. With that in mind, I want to take a moment to draw your attention to the ABA-YLD Code of Conduct for Assembly. We have rules regarding behavior. I'll go over them very quickly. Delegates shall behave at all times in a manner that shall reflect credibly upon the Assembly. Delegates shall work with an aim to support the rule of law and to improve the practice of law. Delegates shall adhere to and abide by the ABA-YLD Assembly standing rules in their entirety. Delegates shall act with civility and professionalism at all times. Delegates shall treat all other ABA members, delegates, and ABA-YLD staff with dignity and respect. Delegates shall exhibit compassionate and courteous behavior at all times. Regarding debate in Assembly, delegates shall maintain proper order and abide by the decisions of the Assembly Speaker. Delegates shall refrain from knowingly making false or misleading statements. Delegates shall refrain from making statements or arguments toward another ABA member that are demeaning, discriminatory, disparaging, insulting, or threatening as determined at the Assembly Speaker's sole discretion. And then, of course, personal responsibility during debate. Delegates shall each be personally responsible for their words and actions. Delegates shall each be personally responsible to speak against uncivil, unprofessional, or disrespectful speech and conduct. The purpose of the Assembly rules are to encourage free, honest, and fair discourse of the important subject matters that arise during debate and remain a harmonious institution of young lawyers who are all gathered in a common interest and for common goals. I encourage all of you to review the Assembly Code of Conduct, and we're asking each of you to commit to following it by signing it and submitting it in. Thanks for your attention today. I look forward to participating with you virtually. I hope you and your families are well, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Aaron. Now we will hear from Council Delegate Ray Payton, Resolutions Team Member and Marketing Communications Director from Houston, Texas, who will give us some tips on social media's engagement for today's first ever virtual assembly.
Welcome to the 2020 annual meeting and welcome to the first ever ABA-YLD virtual assembly. My name is Ray Payton. I'm the current Marketing Communications Director for the ABA-YLD, and this is a proud day for me and the division. We've often sought to increase transparency and accessibility to the assembly process through online means. However, due to COVID, those wishes have now become a necessity, and here we are. So further participate in this process, we ask that you join all members nationwide by using the official conference hashtag ABA-YLD Assembly. This will allow us to connect and communicate online via our social media platforms, just as if we were in the assembly hall. And when we look for more ways to connect this is one of the easiest and most important ways you can do it. Again, make sure you're using the hashtag ABA Assembly, and you're following the ABA YLD on all social media channels at ABA YLD. Thank you. Look forward to hearing from you, and let's have a good assembly.
Thank you, Ray. Our first ever virtual meeting will come to order. The Assembly of the Young Lawyers Division for the 2020 annual meeting of the American Bar Association is now in session. Please rise for our national anthem to be sung by Council Delegate Fabiani Durarte, who is stationed in Germany.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say doth that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you for your service to our country, your dedication to the YLD. Even with you being based in Germany, you're still engaged and you're always excited to plan programs, especially the program that we just had this week for our men and women in the armed services. Thank you, Fabi. Now, before the Michigan delegate Coleman Potts, member of the Credentials Board and Men of Color Initiative Task Force, sings Lift Every Voice and Sing, I would like for us to watch a news clip that aired back in June so everyone can understand a little more about this powerful song that was written by the first African-American man admitted to the Florida bar.
Today is Jacksonville native James Weldon Johnson's birthday. Johnson was the first of many influencers for the Black community, and it started on this day back in 1871.
From writer to activist, Johnson was a pioneer. News4Jax reporter Zach Lashway looks back on the legacy and life of James Weldon Johnson.
Words written by Jacksonville's James Weldon Johnson, put to music in 1919. Lift Every Voice and Sing would become the Black national anthem.
The amazing amount of accomplishments that he was able to pull off in a really horrible Jim Crow era, it's just, it's both fascinating, but also just breathtaking.
From author, assisting writers during the Harlem Renaissance, to educator, Johnson was the first Black principal of the Stanton School, the school he graduated from.
You could only go to 8th grade as an African American in the United States back then. It was illegal to keep going to school. So he had 8th graders come back and surreptitiously go to 9th grade.
Antonio Allegretti, an advocate for Jacksonville history, explains Johnson was eventually found out and was summoned to Tallahassee.
He had a list of all his students and what they had accomplished. So some had become doctors, some had become, newspapermen, et cetera. And so thus began high school for African Americans in Florida.
Johnson would go on to become an activist.
James Weldon Johnson organized the first peaceful protest, which was the Silent Parade of 1917, where 15,000 African Americans marched in silence down Fifth Avenue.
Johnson would become the first Black man to be admitted to the Florida bar.
100 years later kind of speaks to what he was working against and how far we've come, which is obviously not far enough. But there's those bridges between what he was doing then and what's happening now.
He would work several years for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Had about 10,000 members. When he became field director, which was their first person to kind of go out and attract new membership, especially in the South, it went from 10,000 members to 100,000.
Eventually, Johnson would become the first black leader of the NAACP. If you had the opportunity to eulogize Johnson, how would you start that tribute?
This man has done more than any man I've ever studied.
On this day, 149 years ago, James Weldon Johnson was born in a home that sat on this piece of property at the corner of Houston and Lee Streets in Jacksonville's La Villa neighborhood. Today, it's an empty lot. But those at the Durkeeville Historical Society tell me within the year, they hope to develop the land into a larger park called Lift Every Voice and Sing. In downtown Jacksonville, I'm Zach Lajway, Channel 4, the local station.
Duval County's original college preparatory middle school in West Jacksonville is James Weldon Johnson. Johnson's autobiography is called Along the Way.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the day when hope unborn had died. Yeah, with a steady beat, had not a weary feet come to the place for which our fathers died. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the stars. Turn out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last with a white gleam above our star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts Drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you, Coleman, for that beautiful melody. This song is a call to action. It adds depth and breadth to who we are as a nation. It acknowledges the road we've taken to get here, the road our ancestors, all of our ancestors, have taken to get here in this country. This song represents that hopeful future, even now, with "Let Us March On Until Victory is Won." Black Lives Matter. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Council Delegate Johnny Nguyen, ABA Law Student Division Chair from Denver, Colorado.
Hello, my name is Johnny Nguyen, and I'm the chair of the ABA's Law Student Division. I am here in colorful Colorado, where I just finished a hike, and I'm about to head down to my car. But before I do that, I was hoping you could join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, and thank you for your service to the Young Lawyers Division.
Thanks, Johnny. I'm very proud of all your accomplishments this year as the chair of the Law Student Division. You've done a great job. Now, the invocation will be given by Scholar Delegate Daryl Wilson from Jackson, Mississippi.
Hello, my name is Daryl Wilson, and I'm an associate in the Jackson, Mississippi office of Adams and Reese, and I will be providing today's invocation for assembly. If you would, please bow your heads and close your eyes for a word of prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Most gracious and heavenly Father, as we join here today virtually, I pray that you encamp your angels around each person and their families to continue to shield us from all harm and danger presented by the novel coronavirus. Father, for those who may be currently ill, I pray a speedy recovery. And for those who may have lost loved ones along the way, I pray that you provide a spirit of peace and understanding. I pray that you heal our land, not only of the pandemic, but also of overt and covert systemic racism. Father, as we are now faced with an increase of deaths related to police brutality, I ask that you keep and cover the families of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and the extensive list of those gone too soon. Lastly, Father, I pray that you bless those gathered here today for the annual assembly of the Young Lawyers Division. I pray that you bless each person and their respective households as we handle the business of the division. Father, I pray for a spirit of friendship and camaraderie as we engage in debate over the proposed resolutions before us. Keep us covered and protected. I ask these things and more in your name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl, for your powerful invocation over this virtual meeting and over our country during these difficult times. Thank you for being an amazing member of the resolutions team, and congratulations on your dual presidential appointments to the ABA Commission on Racial and Ethnic Diversity in the Profession and the Legal Opportunity Scholarship Committee. Congratulations and thank you. 2020 has been a long year so far. No one expected this country would be rocked to its core, both from a public health crisis and exposure of systematic racism. Before we begin, please listen to an inspirational word, which will be given by New Mexico Delegate Shasta Inman, Vice Chair, YLD Committee on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity, and Resolutions Team member from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shasta Inman, delegate from New Mexico. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for adding me to the agenda this afternoon. I am coming to you from the trees in my backyard to break up some of the Zoom monotony that we have all been enduring for the last 4 or so months. I will be reading today a poem from Adrienne Rich, who is a late great lesbian author and political activist, who I am confident, had she not passed away in 2012, would have endorsed the saying, "White silence is white violence," and supported the Black Lives Matter movement. Before I get to her poem, however, I want to take the opportunity in general to have us all reflect on the lives lost and impacted by police brutality and systemic racism in our country. So please close your eyes, bow your heads, whatever it is that you're compelled to do for 9 seconds of reflection. All right, coming back, thank you for taking that moment with me. And after assembly, if you haven't already, I urge you to check out the Diversity and Inclusion Team's ongoing webinar and publication series discussing our role as young lawyers in addressing systemic racism in America. Now, on to the poem. What Kind of Times Are These? By Adrienne Rich. There's a place between 2 stands of trees where the grass grows uphill and the old Revolutionary Road breaks off into shadows near a meeting house abandoned by the persecuted who disappeared into those shadows. I've walked there picking mushrooms at the edge of dread, but don't be fooled, this is not a Russian poem. This is not somewhere else out here. Our country moving closer to its own truth and dread, its own ways of making people disappear. I won't tell you where the place is, the dark mesh of the woods meeting the unmarked strip of light, ghost-ridden crossroads, leaf mold paradise. I know already who wants to buy it, sell it, make it disappear. And I won't tell you where it is, so why do I tell you anything? Because you still listen. Because in times like these, to have you listen at all, it's necessary to talk about trees.
Thank you, Shasta. That was a beautiful poem and much needed during assembly. Thank you for your consistency and your dedication to the resolutions team. It's truly appreciated. Due to COVID-19 and the virtual nature of this assembly, many of the traditions that we are accustomed to in assembly aren't really feasible right now. At this time, due to the fact that the following items are not possible, the speaker will now entertain a motion to adopt the Assembly Standing Rules with the exception of Rule 1.3D, which directs the speaker to reopen certification of delegates, and Rule 5.5 regarding removing resolutions from the consent calendar.
This is Darrell Wilson, scholar delegate from Mississippi, and I move that we suspend Rules 1.3 and Rule 5.5, the Assembly rules.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. This motion takes a 2/3 vote to pass. Please listen carefully to the instructions as they will be different due to the virtual nature of our meeting. We will need to ensure all votes are counted timely, even during this virtual assembly. So please look under the participant box. There you will see different functions. You'll see a few different functions. One in particular is the raise your hand function. All those in favor say aye by using the voting function to raise your hand. And I will give you a moment to figure out the voting function. During this time, I'm having our tellers go through and count all those electronically that have raised their hands. Once I have received confirmation, then we will move forward. Please keep your hands raised in the voting function. Please do not unclick if you, as we wait for the tellers to contact me. And this was for all those that are in favor of the motion to adopt the standing rules with the exception of Rule 1.3D, which directs the speaker to reopen certification of delegates, and Rule 5.5 regarding removal of resolutions from the consent calendar. I'm waiting on my tellers. Tellers, have you counted all of the hands raised? Tellers, please lower all hands at this time. Thank you. Now, all those opposed, say nay by using the voting function to raise your hand. All those opposed to the motion of accepting the assembly standing rules with the exception of Rule 1.3D, which directs the speaker to reopen certification of delegates, and Rule 5.5 regarding removing the resolutions from the consent calendar. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Tellers, please let me know when you've counted all the hands that are raised. Tellers, please lower all hands. The ayes have it. And the motion to adopt the Assembly standing rules with the exception of Rules 1.3D and 5.5 have passed. Thank you. Thank you, election tellers, resolution tellers. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first ever virtual meeting. My name is Jamie Davis, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving as your YLD Assembly Speaker this year. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, where I serve as the Director of Specialty Compliance and Ethics for Walmart Stores Incorporated. Now, currently, I am in Chicago, Illinois, on site with YLD former Speaker Dave Scriven Young and our third-party vendor, Freeman, as we are broadcasting live today. To all the delegates, thank you again for being so patient as we have planned our first ever virtual meeting. I took several things in mind during this transition process. The first was to make this meeting streamlined, for it to be a little bit shorter so we can ensure that we increase efficiencies. Second, I wanted to truly highlight our men and women in armed services by hosting a standalone program, the virtual program that Bobby was over, and he did an amazing job. Thank you again for that. And lastly, I really wanted to showcase, some of our committees and boards that really don't have the opportunity at Assembly to be showcased. I really want our membership to understand all of their work. Now, when I ran for YLD clerk 2 years ago, one of my priorities including ensuring that Assembly continued to adapt to constantly changing technologies. Well, COVID-19 definitely ensured that I and the YLD not only adapted, but was successful in bringing our membership together to discuss relevant resolutions and other matters before Assembly. Now, I would also like to introduce you to my fellow division officers present today. Assembly Clerk, Chris Jennison from Silver Springs, Maryland. Our Secretary, Troy Portis from Detroit, Michigan. Chair-elect, Chris Brown from Mansfield, Ohio. And Chair, Logan Murphy from Tampa, Florida. Additionally, the parliamentarian I have appointed for this meeting of the Assembly is Council Delegate Asa Madan from Long Beach, California. Delegate Madan is available to accept and respond to parliamentary inquiries throughout this Assembly meeting, but please use the Q&A function. The Assembly Assistant I have appointed for this meeting of the Assembly is Council Delegate Abray Connor from Sacramento, California. The Credentials Board members who will be tallying the resolution votes via the raise hand function through this platform will be Council Delegate Jen Isaacs from Atlanta, Georgia, and Missouri Delegate Renee Morency from St. Louis, Missouri. Now, with those introductory remarks concluded, let us move on. We have a full agenda. As the first order of business, I would like to personally thank the former speakers, Dave Scriven Young, Danny Van Horn, and La Waters, that led the Credentials Board as we prepared for our first ever virtual meeting. They helped to protect the integrity of the delegate certification process. Their role over the past few months has really removed any appearance or potential appearance of a conflict of interest. And I thank you again for stepping in. I thank you for everything. Now for the credentials report, the speaker recognizes former ABA YLD speaker, Dave Scriven Young.
Madam Speaker, we have certified 237 delegates. The list of the names of the delegates and alternates who have been certified up to the call to order appears in the registry in my custody and online, which is available for inspection during the meeting by any delegate by sending a request to yld2020annual@gmail.com. That's yld2020annual@gmail.com. This roll of delegates is the official roll of the voting members of the Assembly, and the quorum of this meeting is 119 delegates.
Thank you, Mr. Former Speaker. As its presiding officer, I will now explain what the Assembly is and its mission. There are two policy-making bodies that concern members of the division. The first is this Assembly. The YLD Assembly is the principal making policy body of the division. For any external policy positions to take effect beyond the division, it must also be passed by the ABA House of Delegates, which is often referred to as the HOD. Each resolution you will consider today falls into one of two categories. First, there are young lawyer resolutions. These resolutions are numbered as YLD resolutions. For example, 20-5YL. These are resolutions that have been authored by members of the Young Lawyers Division, and they will be considered only by this Assembly at the annual meeting. Those that are adopted by this Assembly become the policy of our division. There are also House of Delegates or HOD resolutions. The House will meet on Monday and Tuesday of this annual meeting. The majority of the HOD resolutions have been authored by members of other sections, divisions, and forums within the ABA. Just like other sections, divisions, and forums take resolutions to the HOD, so does our division. The YLD currently has two resolutions that will be brought to the HOD on Monday. The first, HOD Resolution 100A, urges all employers in the legal profession to implement paid family leave policies for the birth or the adoption of a child. It was approved at the mid-year assembly. The second, HOD Resolution 100B, which urges the elimination of race discrimination on the basis of hair texture, style, or opinion or appearance, and was passed by the YLD Council on April 30th, 2020. It will be debated at this assembly, and if it passes this assembly, it will automatically be adopted by the House on Monday, as it was put on the HOD consent calendar, and the HOD deadline to object was yesterday at noon Central Time. The YLD Assembly follows the rules contained in the current edition of the Roberts Rules of Order, subject to such standing or special rules as the Assembly adopts. The Assembly standing rules are posted on the YLD website Assembly page. Now, if you wish to make a motion, please use the Q&A function, and we will line you up in our virtual queue so you can be recognized. Now, there were several emails and requests that if a delegate wanted to be recognized, they had to submit a salmon slip. I cannot guarantee that if a delegate uses the Q&A function, they will be recognized if they didn't submit a salmon slip. If you submitted a salmon slip and your resolution is up next, please be prepared and ready to speak. Now, when recognized, please state your full name, your state, your delegate status. That is how you will be authorized to serve as a delegate, and your motion. I will not recognize any motion until it is a motion that is in order when another has the floor, such as point of order or parliamentary inquiry. A call for the question, in other words, a call to end debate and proceed to a vote is not in order from your seat. If you wish to call for the question, please submit your request in the Q&A function and wait to be recognized. When entertaining resolutions, debate will alternate between proponent and opponent speakers. If you wish to be recognized as a speaker, please use the raise your hand function and wait to be recognized. Once you've been recognized, please unmute your computer and wait for your webcam to broadcast. Please do not forget to introduce yourself, especially regarding pro and con speakers on resolutions. And please speak clearly. If you wish to amend, please submit the amendment in writing in the Q&A function to the parliamentarian as well as the assembly assistant, and wait to be recognized using the same format as we just discussed. The delegate moving the resolution has 6 minutes and may reserve time for rebuttal. The delegate opposing the resolution also has 6 minutes, but does not have time for rebuttal. Those providing council reports on resolutions will have 4 minutes, and other speakers will have 2 minutes. The timekeepers that I've appointed for this meeting are scholar delegates Lindsay Lopez Morello from Puerto Rico and Sheila Spence from Durham, North Carolina. All attendees will be able to see each speaker's designated speaking time displayed on their screen. Today's agenda you received electronically prior to the meeting and is currently available through the YLD website. However, there has been an addition to the agenda pursuant to my authority under the Assembly Standing Rule 5.2 BI, which is an exception to the requirement that the speaker distribute resolutions to delegates in advance of assembly. I am adding HOD Resolution 10G to the debate calendar. This rule provides, in relevant part, that the speaker, with the concurrence of a majority of the resolution team, may suspend this rule with respect to a resolution sponsored by another ABA entity that is set to be considered by the ABA House of Delegates at the same meeting, and which has been referred to the Young Lawyers Division for its support. HOD Resolution 10G meets the standard. This resolution concerns administration of the bar exam during COVID-19. It will be added to the end of today's agenda. The speaker will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
This is Scholar Delegate Daryl Wilson from Mississippi, and I move that we adopt it.
Is there a second?
This is State Delegate Renee Morency from Missouri. I second.
It has been moved and seconded that the YLD Assembly agenda be adopted as amended. Now, this vote requires a simple majority to pass. Please listen carefully to the instructions as they will be different due to the virtual nature of our meeting. All those that all those in favor of adopting the Assembly agenda, please use the voting function by raising your hand by saying aye. And I will give the tellers time to review. Resolution tellers. Thank you. Tellers, may you please lower the hands. Now, all those opposed to the motion, please use the raise your hand function. Tellers, you may lower the hands. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Thank you. The election results have been tabulated by our tellers, so I wanted to go ahead and immediately, per our governance documents, and announce the winners. For office of treasurer, Kareem Arif, 75 votes, Brandon Lee Wolf, 131 votes, total votes cast, 206 votes. The winner of the office of treasurer is the gentleman from New Jersey, Brandon Lee Wolf. For the office of assembly clerk, Abray Connor, 137 votes, Peter Handy, 67 votes, total votes cast, 204 votes. The winner of the office of assembly clerk is the lady from California, Abray Connor. For the office of secretary, Josephine Bond, 110 votes, Jerome Crawford, 96 votes, total votes cast, 206 votes. The winner of the office of secretary is the lady from the District of Columbia, Josephine Bond. Congratulations to all those during the elections campaign, and definitely the winners. Congratulations. The next item of business is the consent calendar. A summary of each resolution is listed on the screen and also on the agenda. The full text of these resolutions is posted on the ABA YLD website and was in the packet sent electronically to each delegate. Any delegate had the ability to object to the placement of these resolutions on the consent calendar by the slated date. The deadline to object to the placement of the resolutions has passed, and all the resolutions on the consent calendar shall stand approved. Next, we will hear from ABA President Judy Perry Martinez.
It's a pleasure to join you for the YLD Assembly during the ABA 2020 virtual annual meeting. My roots are in the Young Lawyers Division of the ABA and its leadership, and I cannot be prouder of the efforts of the YLD this year. I want to thank everyone who serves in this assembly for your dedication and leadership on behalf of the young lawyers of our country and the public we serve. The ABA YLD has had a remarkable year this past year, which is all the more critical in this momentous time for the ABA, the legal profession, and our nation. Logan Murphy has been an outstanding colleague, and we're all looking forward to the leadership of Chris Brown next year. Sheena Hamilton and Ed Rall have done a tremendous job as thoughtful leaders on the ABA Board of Governors, and we're all looking forward to Shada Lee as she ramps up and joins the Board of Governors. In the House of Delegates, Dana Haralick, Sheila Willis, and Anna Romanskaya, and my fellow New Orleanian Professor Dagri Steele have served with distinction and represented the ABA YLD with dedication and eloquence, as have other officers. Thanks to the resilience and nimbleness of key communities like the YLD, the ABA is adapting to the changes brought on by the pandemic and is continuing to evolve for the benefit of our members and the public. And the YLD has stepped up as we meet at the crossroads of history when it comes to justice in America. The death of George Floyd and so many other senseless victims of violence at the hands of law enforcement are the latest instances of centuries of violence and mistreatment against the Black community. Black lives matter, and we need to make sure if we utter those words that we each do our part in this battle for justice. It is important to remind ourselves of this again and again, and we must respond to the calling that beckons all lawyers. As lawyers, we have a special duty to speak out and address injustice, especially injustice caused by laws that are racist in deed or effect. So many members of the ABA are expressing words of support and thoughtful suggestions and offers to help. We're working with members and staff from relevant ABA entities on a multitude of fronts to address our racial justice efforts. I ask you to stand with us. All members and groups throughout the ABA has something to contribute. We welcome all lawyers to get involved and work to promote the valuable YLD programs on diversity and inclusion to make sure more people have the benefit of them, including the Men of Color Project, No Limits, to address the challenges young women lawyers face, and a seat at the table to ensure that we nurture the next generation of ABA leaders. We ask that you give to the newly established ABA Racial Equity and Justice Fund so that we can do more good. The size of your contribution is not what's important. It is just that you give. I ask all of you to use and promote the ABA racial justice resources on our website and get involved in developing policy for the ABA. I urge you to be a part of our anti-racism efforts and frankly, rededicate yourselves to what drew me to this division 37 years ago. Being a part of something bigger than any of us. Diversity and inclusion of those who want to enter our profession, our LGBTQ colleagues, our colleagues with different abilities. Our determination to make access to justice for all a reality. Judicial independence, and yes, the rule of law in a nation of people who have raised their voices to let it be known that they will protect and strengthen our democracy on the streets and in the courtrooms. The Young Lawyers Division continues to contribute a great deal to the ABA in these and many other issues of justice, including Disaster Legal Services for Vulnerable Communities. Linda Stanley and the entire team working with her are doing outstanding work on YLD Disaster Legal Services. And the new partnership with Paladin on the Disaster Relief Pro Bono portal is something we can all be proud of. I can tell you, as a survivor of Hurricane Katrina, that the YLD's Disaster Legal Services program is a crown jewel of the ABA and a model of service for our entire profession. As you participate in this virtual annual meeting, I urge you to recommit yourselves to stand with the ABA as we intensify our efforts for justice and fairness. This is an election year, as we all know, which makes our involvement all the more critical. Please volunteer in your communities as poll workers and poll watchers and voting registrars and staff voter protection hotlines, and spread the word about the importance of voting. Please recommit and remember that lawyers have a special role as leaders in our local communities, and that the ABA depends on you and your leadership, and our communities need you and your leadership. It has been an honor to represent the American legal profession with you at my side. Thank you again for putting the ABA YLD at the essence of what being a lawyer is all about, and committing yourselves to be the best, most professional, and most dedicated lawyer leaders that you can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. We will now hear from the Chair of the House of Delegates, Bill Bay.
Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words to your assembly today. I have had the privilege of serving as your chair of the House of Delegates for the last 2 years. Since I last addressed you in Austin, there have been extraordinary changes to our world. The COVID-19 pandemic. We've seen the tragic consequences of problems with policing and injustice. They've been on open display every day. We've seen protests to ensure the voices of those who seek justice are not forgotten. There have been significant U.S. Supreme Court decisions on the issues of our day: LGBT discrimination, immigration, school choice, separation of powers, native sovereignty, and many others. While all these continue to unfold, we have an election ahead this fall. Our world is struggling with how we react in these times. But for our association and our profession, our mission is clear: defending liberty, pursuing justice. In these times, our collective and clear voices really matter, and actions matter even more. We are agents of change, but we have work to do. And that is the reason why I very much value what you do in your assembly and appreciate your division's leadership. Young lawyer members represent one of the largest groups in our House of Delegates. They are nearly 1 of every 9 delegates. You have been active participants in the House, bringing resolutions at each meeting, including 2 at this meeting. You have been partners in so many things we have done in the House of Delegates over the last 2 years. Thank you for that partnership. We have sought to bring change to the House of Delegates. We have ensured young lawyers have a strong voice in the House, its committees, and leadership. Young lawyers serve on nearly every committee we have. We have added regular listening sessions to hear the concerns of young lawyers and then act on them. We have shone a light on the demographics of the House and its committees, because there cannot be change without accountability. We have never wavered from a focus on who we are, what we do, and how we do it, so that the entire profession realizes the importance of what the House of Delegates and this association do. We have listened to the delegates and have responded with simplified procedures, checklists, videos, and newsletters that make our House a true community. The virtual House of Delegates meeting on Monday and Tuesday presents challenges, but also opportunities to try new things. At this meeting, we will do things a bit differently as we begin, because like what happened after September 11th, there have been changes in our world, and we have to recognize and embrace them. We will play Lift Every Voice and Sing, a song recognized in the African American community as its national anthem. We will look at the events of the last 180 days. We will remember and honor Representative John Lewis as we go back in time and hear the invocation that he gave to our House in 2011, and then we will hear his words from that meeting which speak to us so powerfully today. Most importantly, we will address the resolutions that affect our profession and our communities because actions really matter. I look forward to seeing you on Monday and Tuesday at our first ever virtual meeting. If you are not a delegate, please join us via live stream. You will not regret it. Thank you again for this opportunity to address you. Have a great assembly.
Thank you, Bill. The next order of business is debate on YLD Resolution 20-9YL. This resolution was inadvertently labeled as Constitutional Amendment 11-7 on the agenda, so please note the correct number is 20-9YL. Now, this resolution will not be considered by the ABA House of Delegates at this annual meeting. This resolution amends the ABA YLD's bylaws to accomplish the goals of a couple things: clarifying the roles of district representatives, removing any ambiguity in the process applicable to district representatives, and to clarify the process which the DRs are appointed by their affiliates. Now, for the purpose of moving Resolution 20/9YL, the Speaker recognizes Council Delegate Danny Burrell, District 14 Representative and YLD Practice Services Co-Director from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. I move YLD Resolution 20-9YL for consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
Delegate Burrell, you have 6 minutes. Would you like to reserve any time for a rebuttal?
I request 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Thanks.
Madam Speaker and distinguished delegates of the ABA YLD, I am Danny Burrell, a partner at Brazil, Saxe & Wilson in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the district representative for District 14, co-director of practice services, and member of the Membership Board, Credentialing Board, and LORAPLAB, also known as the Long Range Planning Board. I rise today on behalf of the Long Range Planning Board to urge the passage of YLD Resolution 20-9YL. As many of you know, the Long Range Planning Board is comprised of volunteers from all divisions of the YLD and is tasked with reviewing presented changes to ensure that the changes will result in long-term positive impact on our division. Today's presented bylaw change is hardly a change at all, but seeks to clarify in writing the YLD's expectations of district representatives. As a district representative, I can confirm that this role is vital to the YLD. District representatives are tasked with representing their states and affiliates in the division and on the council. District representatives are also tasked with serving as the point person between their district and the ABA YLD and FEMA for the execution of our award-winning Disaster Legal Services Program. It is this task which we seek to codify in our bylaws. As mentioned, the YLD is honored to have an outstanding disaster legal services team that has been recognized time and time again for their hard work, boots on the ground approach, and success in coordinating response from the area's legal community in a time of need. While our leadership in the disaster legal services team plays a large role of the program's success, the program is worthless without the participation and assistance of our district representatives. Therefore, to better allow district representatives to understand their role in the division, LORAPLAB recommends these bylaw changes. These changes were unanimously passed by the YLD Council, on which all of our district representatives sit, and I ask that this assembly do the same. I will briefly address the revisions presented. Section 3.4A does not change the districts, but merely formalizes the redistricting that was adopted by the YLD in prior years. This change is not substantive, but recognizes the addition of Puerto Rico in the appropriate discussion of our bylaws. Section 3.4B1 clarifies the process by which a district can appoint a district representative. By allowing the affiliate that represents the state to appoint its district representative, if the district chooses not to follow the election procedure provided in our bylaws or does not have another procedure already in place. Currently, many states do appoint their district representatives in this manner. This addition merely seeks to recognize the procedure currently being utilized by our states. Section 3.4B5 is the heart of the purpose of this bylaw amendment. The language added to Section 3.4B5 is intended to formalize the WildD's expectations of the district representatives and provide notice to all potential electees or appointees of these expectations. As discussed, in addition to serving on the council, district representatives are expected to be the connection between the division and the affiliates in their district and assist the disaster legal services team in preparing for and responding to disasters. Therefore, on behalf of the Long Range Planning Board, I respectfully urge that you adopt WildD Resolution 20YL. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. For the purposes of opposing WildD Resolution 20-9YL, the Speaker recognizes Scholar Delegate Takia Gatson, ABA WildD Scholar from Miami, Florida. Delegate Gatson, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Fellow Assembly delegates, my name is Takia Gatson, and I'm a Scholar Delegate from Florida. I stand in opposition of WildD Resolution 20-9YL, titled Addressing District Representative Selection and Responsibilities. The spirit of this resolution is well-rooted and appears to be effective in theory. However, it challenges the autonomy of our affiliates. It may be helpful to clarify the role of the district representatives, but removing ambiguity in processes applicable to district representatives may prevent affiliates from having the freedom to interpret the bylaws and enact processes for selecting district representatives that best suits the needs of their state. For the following reasons, I stand in opposition to this resolution. First, the proposed changes to the election process will likely restrict the applicant pool. As the amendment states, if the affiliate in a district lacks a process to elect a district representative or do not hold such an election, the district representative shall be appointed by the leader of the Young Lawyer Division of the affiliate that represents the state. This process will discourage qualified candidates from pursuing the district representative position. Qualified candidates who may not have a longstanding history within the division may face barriers to entry due to lack of relationships with the affiliate leader. Since the goal of the WildD is to promote leadership and involvement, adding an appointment process may indirectly hinder those goals. Our division has a demonstrated record of fostering inclusiveness. By enacting this change, potential district representatives may feel secluded. As an alternative, affiliate leaders in each state should be encouraged to develop an application or an election process that promotes fairness and the opportunity for candidates to be selected based upon their goals and vision for the position. By encouraging affiliates to develop a selection process, members who lack the connection within the WildD but have strong ties to our members at the ground level may be promoted to leadership. We should avoid enacting a pipeline entry process or appointment process for the district representative position in order to introduce new leaders with fresh ideas and diversity of thought to our WildD leadership. The next proposed amendment change states, in districts that represent more than one state, the state with the authority to appoint the district representative shall alternate from term to term, consistent with Section 3.4B3. This proposed change removes the affiliate's autonomy to choose how they decide to elect or appoint the district representative. The original language in the bylaws allows room for districts which include more than one state to rotate as prescribed by 3.4B3. And the proposed change will narrow the scope of the affiliate's authority. This proposed change will also have a similar effect of prohibiting applicants from qualifying for an election due to the rotating schedule. As we know, the rate of involvement for young attorneys will vary from year to year. If the rotating process is enacted, applicants from certain states will not qualify to be elected if in that given year, their state does not have the authority to elect the district representative. Our goal as the ABA WildD is to allow parties who have a demonstrated interest of serving our members the opportunity to do so and promote the interests of the organization. This change may present a barrier to that mission. Lastly, as it pertains to tenure, the proposed amendment removed the words previous and due process from subsection 4. This proposed change may result in multiple rescinded elections without formal advance notice. District representatives deserve the opportunity to be heard on matters of election or removal. District representatives serve a vital function of the ABA as a direct connection between the states, their affiliates, and its members. As such, affiliates and district representatives should be given formal notice and an opportunity to be heard in the event that council finds any reason to rescind elections or remove district representatives. Furthermore, as it pertains to removal, There are other ways to ensure that the district representatives adhere to the duties and responsibilities of their position. Pursuant to the funding chart for this bar year, as well as in previous years, district representatives receive reimbursement funding for fall, mid-year, cabinet, and spring meetings. Notably, this reimbursement is directly correlated to the fulfillment of their duties as district representatives. In the event that any district representative fails to satisfactorily fulfill any duties, council may restrict reimbursement to said district representative until they comply with their responsibilities. Instead of removing the district representative, we simply enforce the rules that are already in place. This way, council is not arbitrarily rescinding or removing any district representatives without notice, and the affiliates are able to retain their authority of selecting the candidate to represent their state. The benefits to this process are twofold. It increases transparency and communication between council, affiliates, and district representatives, as district representatives will be held accountable for their performance. Second, the district representatives will be aware that the council fully intends to uphold the expectations for their position. To conclude, while this resolution aims to provide viable solutions, we should prioritize small but practical improvements before we enact a significant change. For these reasons, I ask that you vote opposing Resolution 20-9YL. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Gadsden. Now, the Speaker recognizes Council Delegate Troy Portis, ABA YLD Secretary from Detroit, Michigan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The ABA YLD Council considered this resolution on February 14, 2020 at the mid-year meeting. The resolution passed council by a voice vote.
Thank you, Council Delegate Portis. For the purpose of debate, the Speaker recognizes the next proponent speaker, Delegate Kenneth Medinsky. You have 2 minutes, and my apologies if I butchered your last name.
It's fine. It's Matuszewski. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, Madam Speaker. My name is Kenneth Matuszewski. I'm a YLD delegate from Illinois, and I am a patent attorney at Neil Gerber and Eisenberg LLP and a representative of the Chicago Bar Association. So I am speaking in favor of this resolution because I do think it is important to have a process that clarifies and transparently explains the roles that affiliates have in selecting their district representatives and making sure that there's a connection there. As is, just based upon the language, it's ambiguous. And while there might be an appointment process, after 3 years of serving as an officer of the Young Lawyers Division and a couple bar associations, I had no idea, across multiple organizations, I've had no idea how our district representatives were appointed. I didn't know what that process was, what our relationship was to the ABA. That's something that I'm only just finding out about now. And that's something that needs to be clarified, and the relationship should be developed earlier and more formally. That's something that if the goal of the ABA is to help the affiliates best function and enact their own mission and works, I think having some form of a relationship earlier on that's formal, which I do think having a formal process is a more equitable option, because unlike having someone being appointed where it could just be based on relationships and who you know, having a formal running process allows you to have the structure, you have the election. Everybody has their chance to have their voice heard in a debate and to have their ideas cast out and to have a light shown on it. So for that reason, in order to clarify the roles of affiliates and promote the relationships, I fully support it.
Thank you. Now, for the purpose of debate, do we have our next opponent speaker? Do we? Okay, the speaker recognizes the next proponent speaker, Delegate Matthew Kurbis. You have 2 minutes.
First off, I want to say Illinois represent. Two of us in a row. That's what I like to see. More involvement from Illinois. All right. I want to voice my support for this resolution. It cannot be emphasized enough how important it is that these positions are filled. I think that was done pretty well by Danielle, but I just wanted to reemphasize that it's really important that that we fill these district rep positions. Frankly, I think that the resolution does not go far enough, but as it stands right now, I want it to pass, and we could revisit it later. In response to the Khan argument, I do think that once all the DRs are filled, this might be a good thing to come back and revisit. I don't think it goes far enough. I understand some of the hesitation of approving it with the language as written, but I think that it's a step in the right direction. And I think that we need these positions filled. And that's why I ask that that you vote in favor of adoption of this resolution. And I miss seeing you all, and I miss being able to make new relationships and seeing my old friends. What a world we live in. So that's my time. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Seeing no further debate, the speaker recognizes Delegate Burrell for a 2-minute rebuttal unless she chooses to waive.
Madam Speaker, I'll briefly address several points that have been raised. The first is the elections process. As stated, our goal is also to increase the autonomy of the affiliates in the states and allow them to utilize the process that works best for them to make sure that these positions are filled. My state, District 14, Louisiana, has 10 affiliates just in Louisiana. Therefore, to enact the election process that is written, we would have to have an election across 10 different bar associations. Practically, my state, nor does many, elect our district representatives by that process. The language that's added merely allows the districts the autonomy to utilize the procedure that they're already using on a yearly basis and to encourage participation and fulfillment of these roles. As for the due process language that was taken out of the provision, that was removed because it is so ambiguous that it does not provide any process or structure for enforcement. We agree with Delegate Takia Gadsden that we are trying to allow these procedures that are already in place to be enforced. So by removing this very ambiguous phrase, which offers no structure or process, we are allowing those directors to enforce the rules about district representatives that are in place. But more importantly, I want to emphasize that the point of this bylaw amendment, which did pass council, which all the district representatives sit on, is to clarify the district representative's role and make sure they are clear about their role as both representing their state affiliates and serving our disaster legal services team, which are both functions that greatly add to the overall division of the YLD and what we can accomplish in a year. So I urge all of you to pass YLD Resolution 20-9YL. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now, the question is on the adoption of Resolution 20-9YL. This motion takes a simple majority. Please listen carefully to the instructions. They're a little bit different due to the virtual nature of this meeting. All those in favor of the motion to adopt the resolution 20-9YL, say aye by using the voting function of raising your hand. Tellers, have you been able to count the raised hands, the votes? Thank you. You can go ahead and lower the hands, please. Were we able to lower all the hands? Okay. Now, all those opposed, say nay by using the voting function to raise your hand. Tellers, were you able to count all the raised hands? Thank you, delegates, for being patient. Thank you, tellers. You can go ahead and lower everyone's raised hands. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. 125 votes to 24 votes. The resolution is adopted. Thank you. We will now hear from the YLD Director of Diversity and Inclusion, Tamara Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to address our assembly. Hello, friends. My name is Tamara Nash, and I have the pleasure of serving as the 2019-2020 Diversity and Inclusion Director. And I'd like to take some time to give you a highlight of the year we've had. And I'd like to begin with telling you a little bit about our team. Our team is made up of several vice directors and members at large, the Scholars Program, national affiliate representatives, the Men of Color team, and several committees. As you can see, we're a pretty large team, and this year has been all hands on deck. I'm proud to report that we have had a dynamic and productive year. We have actively sought to break down silos and work towards the goal of collaboration. And I'd like to take my time to highlight some of our successes this year. You may have heard the Division Scholars Program be referred to as a springboard into leadership. This year did not disappoint. Of our 15 scholars, we had 100% placement in the 2021 leadership class. We're so proud of our scholars and all they have done and will do in our division. The What Do Lawyers Do program continued to have a broad reach. This year, 7 programs, including 2 virtual programs, were implemented, impacting 437 students. This year, we had a successful Embracing Diversity Challenge. 2 affiliates were recognized and have received a grant for $1,500. And both of these programs focused on providing dynamic and meaningful mentoring to students in their area. And at the 2020 mid-year meeting, we continued the rich tradition of the Diversity Dialogue Breakfast. The entire branch, including the Men of Color team, collaborated to host over 100 association members for the program entitled A Frank Conversation on Diversity and Inclusion, Moving Beyond Lip Service, a conversation with Don Profit. This fireside chat also helped produce a white paper, which was penned by 4 of our scholars. This year, we continued the conversation of how do we produce dynamic programming that reaches every member of the division. And to that end, we launched 2 webinar series. The first, Diversity and Inclusion in the Legal Profession, consisted of 4 webinars. And these webinars were a partnership between the Minorities in the Profession Committee, the scholars, the SOGI Committee, the Men of Color team, and the South Asian Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. The second program series, Redefining Justice, A Path Forward, was launched in July in response to our nation's unprecedented movement demanding racial equity, equal justice, and the end to police brutality. The series kicked off with thought leaders Robert Gray Jr. and Lanita Baker in the fireside chat, Liberty and Justice for All, Confronting Systemic Racism and Addressing Civil Unrest, a call to action for young lawyers. And with this program, we again saw fantastic results. 202 people registered for the event, and since it launched, 370 people have replayed the event on Facebook Live. This 5-part series will extend into October 2020, covering topics like resiliency fatigue and ally empathy, diversity and inclusion training for affiliates, qualified immunity, and corporate responsibility. Our team this year has worked diligently to strengthen our relationships with Goal 3 entities, as well as with our national affiliate bars. We co-sponsored 3 programs with Goal 3 entities this year, working with the Commission on Women in the Profession, the National Conference of Women Bar Associations, and the ABA section of Civil Rights and Social Justice, and the Commission on SOGI. In the same vein, we looked outside of the association to build relationships with our national affiliate bars. In the fall, we brought together 6 minority bar associations to host a young lawyer networking event in Chicago. And this spring, we planned the 2nd Young Lawyer Regional Summit alongside 2 other national affiliate bars. Our team also took the initiative to move the needle and improve our culture of inclusivity. Led by the SOGI Committee, this body considered Constitutional Amendment 11-5 at our mid-year meeting and unanimously adopted a bylaw change to reflect non-binary terms. We also took the time to listen to our members and provide them resources. In the fall, we created 2 toolkits. Our division began using pronoun stickers at our in-person meetings. And in the spring, we launched a diverse member survey, which was implemented in 3 phases and will continue into next bar year. And finally, we have been working to revise our diversity and inclusion plan, creating a living document which reflects the strategic goals, spirit of inclusivity, and the cornerstones of this division. The dedicated work of this branch has rippled across the division and the larger association. To that end, I want to take a moment to acknowledge those who have been critical to fulfilling our team's mission. I would note that 6 of our team members have been recognized as Division Stars of the Quarter. Those members are Shasta Inman, Daryl Wilson, Jasmine Robinson, Nadine Graves, Sheila Spence, and Esther Hunn. And our critical and historical Men of Color team, was presented with the inaugural Diversity Champion Award at ABA Midyear. We are so proud of the hard work and diligence that our team has exemplified this year. Truly, this year we have embodied the motto, teamwork makes the dream work. And with that, we confidently pass the baton to incoming Director Esther Hun, her team of vice directors, committee chairs, liaisons, and team members. I'd like to thank our chair, Logan Murphy, for his support, our staff for their hard work, and you all, our members, for supporting the initiatives of diversity and inclusion and for driving the needle forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Tam Nash, you have done a great job. Thanks again for your partnership and being the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Now, the next item of business is debate on HOD Resolution 100B, which will be considered by the ABA House of Delegates on Monday at the annual meeting. Now, this resolution was passed by the YLD Council and is on the consent calendar for the House of Delegates because the deadline to object to items on the HOD consent calendar has passed. If the resolution passed the Assembly, it will become policy of the association. Now, this resolution urges that the interpretation of race as included in the anti-discrimination statute be not limited to the color of one's skin, but rather includes other physical and cultural characteristics associated with race, to advance anti-discrimination on the basis of the texture, style, or the appearance of a person's hair. This resolution was drafted by young lawyers and adopted by the YLD Council. The YLD HOD representatives have obtained the co-sponsorship of the ABA section of Civil Rights and Social Justice, Criminal Justice section of State and Local Government Law, and the Law Student Division. Additionally, the following ABA entities support the resolution: ABA Commission on Racial and Ethnic Diversity in the Profession, ABA Council on Diversity in the Educational Pipeline, ABA Commission on Women in the Profession, and ABA Commission on Youth at Risk. For the purpose of moving HOD Resolution 100B, the Speaker recognizes Council Delegate Abray Connor, YLD 31st District Representative, Resolution Team Member, and Assembly Assistant from Sacramento, California.
I move HOD Resolution 100B.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Delegate Connor, you have 6 minutes. Would you like to reserve time for rebuttal?
I would like to reserve 1 minute for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abray Connor. My preferred pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a civil rights and constitutional attorney for the ACLU Foundation of Northern California. I also teach education law at UC Davis School of Education, and I am proud to be one of the authors of HOD 100B. The Crown Act resolution, as my practice, involves discrimination-based work based on protected categories such as race, color, and now in California, natural hair. The YLD HOD representatives, as you've heard, have obtained co-sponsorships from a number of different entities. And because this was a part of the consent agenda for the House of Delegates, the time has already expired to remove this resolution and will be approved by the House as long as the YLD approves this resolution today. Black hair, more specifically Black natural hair, has been unfortunately as controversial as the topic of Black lives for years. We are encountering a time where we are forced to ask ourselves, are the values that we hold in line with where we want to be as a nation? It is impossible to discuss the importance of Black life without creating space to explain the checkered past, specifically regarding how discrimination against Black natural hair and hairstyles is a part of systemic oppression and white supremacy. Black people have been harassed, discriminated against, and ostracized because of their hair. My client, for example, William Pleasant, was a senior in Clovis Unified School District. He was told by administrators that he could not register for his senior classes unless he cut his afro. The district actually had a cultural waiver in which he applied for it. He was told that Black people could not have culture. Just 2 years ago, the Supreme Court refused to consider a lawsuit against catastrophe management systems, alleging that Chastity Jones, a Black woman, suffered racial discrimination when CMS rescinded a job offer because Jones would not cut her dreadlocks. And the hiring committee, when they were asked why she was not being offered the job, they said they tend to get messy. Although I'm not saying yours are, but you know what I'm talking about. As you can see, the natural hair classification is important because even in spaces where Black people may be accepted with conditions, their hair which is clearly a part of who we are, is still considered a problem. The rules of conformity in workplaces and in schools typically revolve around white culture. Conformity has meant in times wearing Black hair in styles that are in a manner which is not how we normally keep it, which is in kinky or tightly curled patterns, dreadlocks and sister locks. Chemically relaxing natural Black hair can have health impacts as well, such as cancer. Title VII was specifically enacted to ensure that individuals have protections against immutable characteristics. And we cannot discuss the root of inequities that create barriers for fairness without discussing the disparate treatment Black people face because of their natural hair. As stated in the Good Hair Study, women of other races and ethnicities who have curly or textured hair may experience pressure to conform to these beauty standards, but Black women, in a sense, are often pitted against them. So this resolution specifically gives space for that fact. The Crown Act is about recognizing that Black people should be able to wear their hair however they would like, and that right should exist the same way it does for non-Black people. We cannot have a country that claims to have equal protection based on historical oppression if the classification of Black natural hair is not recognized. That's why across the country, cities and states are adopting Crown Act legislation to amend their education codes and civil rights laws to ensure the recognition of Black natural hair is clear. This division has a long history of recognizing the importance of diversity in anti-discrimination platforms. Indeed, the YLD Council just voted to approve our new diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. And the ABA has a history of filing amicus briefs and lobbying for anti-discrimination efforts. Black natural hair must be a part of that anti-discrimination advocacy. In a week where we are considering what it means to get into good trouble because of the late John Lewis, let me give you a suggestion for today. Support equality for Black people. In this instance, that means ensuring that there is protection against loss of jobs, disparate school discipline, unfair employment practices, and more due to Black natural hair. That is doing your part. Ask yourself, when was the last time that the way that you wore your hair naturally was being considered and then denied by the highest court in this country? As a Black woman, I can say for me, it was very recently, and that needs to change. So let's get into good trouble together and support the passage of the Crown Act resolution.
Thank you, Delegate Connor. We do not have a principal opponent to speak on this resolution. The first delegate or other person with speaking privileges to be recognized by the speaker as an opponent may speak for up to 6 minutes. Does any delegate wish to speak in opposition of this resolution? The speaker now recognizes Council Delegate Troy Portis, ABA YLD Secretary from Detroit, Michigan, to give the council report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The ABA YLD Council considered this resolution via conference call on April 30th, 2020. The resolution passed via electronic vote of 45 ayes, 2 nays, and 4 abstentions.
Thank you. Now, for the purpose of debate, the speaker recognizes the next proponent speaker, Council Delegate Chris Jennison, Assembly Clerk from Silver Springs, Maryland. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As was mentioned, my name is Chris Jennison. I am the current YLD Clerk, and I am a co-author of this resolution as well. Outside of the YLD, though, I'm a federal government employment lawyer. Among other litigation, I defend my agency against claims of discrimination in the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. In my briefing, I often argue based off of the current law of the land, not based off of what the law should be. The law currently in most places, as you've heard and as you've read about, does not recognize appearance generally or hairstyle specifically. Though I've not had an EEO case where a manager in my agency was alleged to have discriminated based on black natural hair, I could easily see a situation where I find myself defending against such an allegation to protect the agency. An expansion of the law would likely make my job harder in some instances. Please make my job harder. The law should recognize that natural hairstyles are a component of race and should be recognized by anti-discrimination laws. Please speak up in favor of this resolution and be a voice for young lawyers and a voice for what the law should be. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Now, for the purpose of debate, do we have an opponent speaker? Seeing none, the speaker recognizes the next proponent speaker, Delegate Matthews Curbis. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I just want to voice my support for adoption of this resolution. I think everything that's been said is already needed to be said. I cannot relate personally, and I'm so glad that that this resolution was brought so that I can understand how much of an issue that it is. I have not seen this before in the course that I go into, but I think it's absolutely necessary that this resolution is adopted. So I voice my support for it and yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further debate, the speaker recognizes Delegate Connor for a 1-minute rebuttal. Unless she chooses to waive.
Thank you. I choose to waive.
Delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now the question is on the adoption of HOD Resolution 100B. This motion takes a simple majority. Please listen carefully to the instructions, as they will be the same that I've given out thus far due to the virtual nature of our meeting. All those in favor of the adoption of HOD Resolution 100B, please use the raise the hand function to say aye. Tellers, once you're done calculating the votes, please just send me a message. Thank you. Thank you. Tellers, please lower the hands. All those opposed to the resolution, please, well, sorry, in a second, once we have all of the hands lowered. Thank you, delegates, for being patient. Can we please lower all of the hands? Thank you. Now, all those opposed to the adoption of the resolution, please use the voting function to raise your hand. Once the tellers calculate the votes, they will send them to me and I will announce. Thank you, tellers. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted, 145-0. Thank you. Due to this virtual nature of the meeting, we will need to move HOD Resolution 301A next on the agenda. So please, delegates, please understand we're moving HOD Resolution 301A next on the agenda. The next item of business is debate on HOD Resolution 301A, which will be considered by the ABA House of Delegates at this annual meeting. The resolution urges governments to enact legislation to eliminate or significantly limit the defense of qualified immunity in civil actions brought against law enforcement officers. For the purpose of moving HOD Resolution 301A, the Speaker recognizes Mark Schickman, former ABA YLD Assembly Speaker and Section of Civil Rights and Social Justice HOD Delegate from Berkeley, California. Mr. Schickman, as a former YLD Speaker, you have privileges of the floor. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would move adoption of Resolution 301A.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Former Speaker, you have 6 minutes. Would you like to reserve time for a rebuttal?
May I reserve 2 minutes, please?
Yes, you'll have 4 minutes.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for the honor of appearing at this virtual YLD assembly. And I'm extremely happy and gratified that the YLD continues to do its great work through this assembly. And I also want to thank you for just passing the Crown Act resolution, which we in the section of Civil Rights and Social Justice also think is really important, and thank you very much for raising it. 301A is a very short resolution with a very significant report, and I hope that you have read it. We're in an age where one of the real issues that we're trying to tackle is how to curb abuses by law enforcement officers, particularly when it comes to violation of civil rights, whether on the basis of race, and actually, let me turn off my background here. Whether on the basis of race or any other violation of civil rights. When Section 1983 passed and the civil rights statutes went into effect, the courts developed a doctrine which is a qualified immunity doctrine, which basically says that even if there is a civil rights violation, there is going to be qualified immunity unless it is clearly established that the actor knew that it was a violation of civil rights. And it has been extremely broadly defined, which is why this legislation asks that it be curtailed. And it asks for the legislative bodies in the various states to curtail them, or Congress to curtail them, and doesn't give a rule as to how it should happen. But the history of this, of qualified immunity jurisprudence, even going to this very day, demonstrates that it stands in the way of enforcing civil rights law, avoiding civil rights violations. Here are some examples. We had a case in 2013 where a prison guard deprived somebody of their hearing aid. There had already been cases that say that an inmate has got a right to their eyeglasses or their dentures, but no case that dealt with hearing aids. And so it was found on the basis of qualified immunity that that was not a clearly established civil rights violation. You had an instance where somebody goes into the wrong house and puts in tear gas in a manner that that destroys large parts of the house. Because it is the first case that dealt with it, there could be no liability under the qualified immunity doctrine. And if you look at page 6 of the report, you see what the court said in West versus Caldwell, that qualified immunity allows a bad actor to duck the consequences for bad behavior, no matter how palpably unreasonable, as long as they were the first to behave badly. If they're the first one, it's not clearly established. If it's not clearly established, there is qualified immunity. And this very important tool that allows for an action against a law enforcement officer, and this is limited to law enforcement officers in its scope, is in a position to be able to utilize the remedy of of bringing a civil action against somebody for violation of civil rights. As we look for ways to better improve relationships with law enforcement and get better behavior when it comes to communities of color, when it comes to the issues of civil rights, this is an important tool, which is why we urge your support of 301A. Thank you.
Thank you. For the purpose of opposing HOD Resolution 301A, the Speaker recognizes Council Delegate Nisha Christine Hendrickson, President of the Virgin Islands Bar Association from St. Croix Island.
Good afternoon. My name is Nisha Christian Hendrickson, and before I proceed, I would like to make it clear that I'm not speaking in my leadership position as the Bar Association President or as in my role as a government official. I was reticent to be a speaker because I acknowledge that qualified immunity must be viewed differently in the territories than in the continental United States. I have a unique perspective as a former territorial public defender in a community where people of color are the largest demographic, and are represented in all levels of government. The Territorial State Police Department has been under a consent decree for the last 10 years. Many of the reforms that are being considered now and that are needed in the US mainland have already been implemented in the BI. Also, my perspective is informed and influenced by having had an immediate family member at death's door from a random act of gun violence and having had many familiar relationships with law enforcement. My position today is to remove the word abolish from Resolution 301A for 3 reasons. First, abolishing qualified immunity does not attack the real issue of disparate treatment and racial inequality. Qualified immunity has been used as a shield to protect bad actors in law enforcement to avoid the consequences of their activities of cowardice and racism. We have seen qualified immunity used as a practice to permit actions by law enforcement to be left unchecked by the civil process. George Floyd's death shone a bright light on the victims of systematic racism, who are men and women of color. Therefore, the use of qualified immunity should be curtailed, but not abolished. Second, bad actors skirt the initial intent. Correctly applied, courts would analyze the situations using the 2-part test. If both are answered in the affirmative, then the public official does not get immunity. The questions are, does the officer violate a constitutional right, or did the officer know that their actions violated a clearly established right? Unfortunately, many courts spend too much time addressing the second question of whether an act is clearly established. If the facts and circumstances have not been previously seen, then an often shameful violation of constitutional right will go unpunished. The defense, which is found in 42 U.S.C. 1983, was created to assist the government in combating the Ku Klux Klan violence in the South after the Civil War. In Bivens versus 6 unknown agents of Federal Bureau of Narcotics, individuals were allowed to sue government officials for money damages when they did violate their constitutional rights. Third, the establishment of qualified immunity would have a chilling effect on law enforcement and other government officials. We have seen in the rhetoric used in the Second Amendment protections, attacks on affirmative action, and even the weaponization of immigration reform. What the law of the land is and the way it's perceived by the public is not always aligned. Many law enforcement and government would view the complete abolishment of qualified immunity as a mechanism to attack them when they have to make unpopular, complicated, or at times unfavorable decisions. This would decrease the number of law enforcement and government officials, many who do their work out of love of country. Many government officials would become hesitant to make split-second or difficult decisions if qualified immunity was abolished. If abolished, it would place all well-meaning servants of the people at personal risk for circumstances at times beyond their control. For example, a public health official may fear developing a vaccine for COVID-19, for fear that they would be sued if any deaths result despite adequate scientific trials. Another point that is not often discussed is how crime affects communities and the people of persons victimized by the police and others in their own community. Only with a consistent rule of law can countries genuinely thrive. We have known for far too long that there are many bad actors who are highlighted as of late. This must be balanced by the work that that is done to keep crime and violence at bay, as well as government to perform its functions. Now, more than ever as a country, we're at a crossroads. We must seize the opportunity to have dialogue and implement ways to address the inequalities of the judicial system. We must engage in a real dialogue on race issues, inequality, and how justice system can be applied to people of color. I submit that we must, quote, restore the dignity of life and dialogue. In the argument of Buddhism, dialogue challenges us to confront and transform destructive impulses inherent in human life. At the root of conflicts in the world today lie in mistrust and hatred. To transcend these, the genuine power of dialogue is indispensable. We must tenaciously persist in talking with others, engaging them in repeated discussion. We must recognize the fundamental path to solving these problems exists only in the process of substantial efforts of dialogue. Jalai 2 being page 7. We must use dialogue to address the social ills used in this moment in American history to create long-standing reform. In closing, I urge you to remove the language of abolish from Resolution 308. Thank you.
Thank you. For the purpose of debate, the speaker recognizes the next proponent. Do we have our next proponent speaker? Seeing no further debate, the speaker recognizes former speaker for a 2-minute rebuttal unless he chooses to waive.
Thank you. And thank you for the cogent discussion that we have been having about this. There are 2 comments I do want to indicate. The resolution asks for legislation to eliminate or substantially curtail. So it does call for either. And I think that maybe there's no disagreement that in terms of at least substantially curtailing it, it's an important thing to do, and the resolution provides that choice. Second question is this: the speaker mentioned that this resolution would have a chilling effect on law enforcement. To an extent, I think that that's right, and I think that there's some behavior that ought to be chilled. And I think that the issue on the test really is when we talk about the second prong of the test that we just indicated. I mean, and I agree completely. The first prong is to whether there's a violation should get most attention. The difficulty is the second one, proving that it was knowing, became the difficult issue. As the courts indicate, if you're the first person to do it, by and large, you're allowed off the hook because of the difficulty of showing that you knew that when you deprive somebody of their eyeglasses because you're trying to discriminate against them because of a constitutionally protected activity, there's a case that speaks to it, so you can't do it. If it is depriving them of their hearing aid because there's no case on it, you get away with that first time around. Second officer who does that won't get away with it because it's clearly established at that point. That's the dilemma with the test. It's the reason that we ask that it be eliminated or substantially curtailed. And that's the why we are urging adoption of 301A. Thank you very much for your attention on this.
Thank you. Delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now the question is on the adoption of HOD Resolution 301A. Now this motion, it takes a simple majority. Please listen carefully to the instructions. All those in favor, please use the voting function by raising your hand. And thank you again to the tellers. Truly appreciate your assistance. Delegates, please remember once you hit your raise the hand function, please leave your hands up so that the tellers can accurately count. Again, the motion is on the adoption of HOD Resolution 301. All those in favor, please use the voting function by raising your hand. Thank you. Tellers, you can go ahead and lower those hands. All those opposed, use the voting function by raising your hand. All those opposed, use the voting function to raise your hand. Okay, the tellers are informing me that we have some delegates that are voting late. So please, we're trying to ensure everyone's vote is counted. As soon as I ask you to raise your hand, you can please use that function and keep the function up until I ask them to, until I let you know and ask them to lower it. So please, if you can just keep your hands raised and please vote on time. Once the tellers let me know this vote, we'll move forward. Thank you. You can go ahead and tellers lower the raise hand function for me, please. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. 112 to 28. 112 votes to 28. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now hear from YLD co-chairs of the Men of Color Initiative Task Force, Jerome Crawford and Michael Nguyen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jerome Crawford, and together with Michael Nguyen, I serve as co-chair of the Men of Color Project, or MOCP for short. The project was established in 2018 as part of a special task force by immediate past chair Tommy Preston. It exists to build leaders in the law field, facilitate intergenerational support, and encourage community service and civic engagement amongst men of color in the law. It's built upon 3 pillars: vision development and execution, sponsorship and mentoring, and mental health and wellness. Here in the second year of the project, our goal was to help move MOCP from a short-term initiative into a long-standing program that would outlive us and be interwoven into the fabric of the ABA YLD's work for years to come. We thank our chair, Logan Murphy, for providing us the platform and support to do just that. And this has been a very productive year for MOCP. Of course, it takes a village and the strength of many to do this important work. We'd like to give a special shout out to our fabulous project team, including Coleman Potts, Apurva Patel, Julius Red, Donovan Bonner, Fabian Ruiz, and Hunter Cox. Following a strong inaugural year, we took those lessons and separated our work into a variety of categories. First, we continue to hold in-person programming at any events, including ABA meetings. In September 2019, we conducted a special collaboration with the ABA Business Law Section's Diversity and Inclusion and Young Lawyers Committees on a program entitled Transforming the Legal Profession, the Men of Color Project, featuring a conversation between Wilson Chu and Judge Alvin Thompson, moderated by Apurva Patel. In October 2019, at the ABA YLD Fall Conference in New Orleans, we held a strolling intentional networking breakfast featuring ABA President Judy Perry Martinez. And in the mid-year meeting in Austin, Texas, we had a Diversity Dialogue breakfast in conjunction with the YLD Diversity and Inclusion team led by Tamara Nash. The program, entitled A Frank Conversation, featured outspoken leader Don Profit. Next, we strengthened our digital footprint by creating programming to live beyond the moment in the form of webinars. Not only did we conduct webinars through our ABA staff team, we were incredibly grateful to fortify our partnership with Thomson Reuters on their Next Gen Leadership Advancing Lawyers of Color initiative. With Thomson Reuters as an invaluable partner, we've collaborated to roll out a quarterly webinar series. We've also worked together to create and amplify content to be used on both ABA YLD and the TR platforms, and in the form of webinars and articles. In January 2019, we held Walk the Talk, Moving the Diversity and Inclusion Needle Forward. This webinar was done through our stellar ABA staff, and again, teaming up with the YLD D&I team. The webinar featured key partners on the newly established Move the Needle Fund 2025 to address how metrics and public measurable milestones can in fact lead to real change. On February 25th, we executed our first webinar with Thomson Reuters entitled Holistic Wellbeing Strategies and Destigmatizing Asking for Help, featuring incoming MOCP Chair Jonathan Bogues and Lakeisha Randall, moderated by Coleman Potts. Then on June 16th, we held our second quarter webinar with TR. This one was entitled Vulnerability as a Leadership Strength to Thrive During Tumultuous Times, featuring Adrienne Williams, Donovan Bonner, and LJ Chavis, moderated by Michael Nguyen. And we are excited to continue working with Thomson Reuters on our third webinar, which is set to take place on November 10th, 2020. Another way we were able to grow the digital footprint was through videos capturing the honest, candid feedback of young lawyers on pertinent topics. We started at ABA Midyear in Austin, Texas, and fueled by content captured there, we rolled out a video segment entitled Early Career Lawyers of Color Share Tactics for Dealing with Imposter Syndrome. This was paired with a spectacular article on imposter syndrome written by Jonathan Bogues. And most recently, the Men of Color Project has been at the forefront of the necessary conversation around an epidemic that has been exposed during this pandemic, and that is systemic racism in our country. MOCP is a key stakeholder in the WildD's programmatic response to the present civil unrest and the fight for racial equity. Along with fellow WildD leaders, we helped to plan and ultimately were honored to moderate the first program in the series held on July 8th entitled Liberty and Justice for All, Confronting Systemic Racism and Addressing Civil Unrest, a call to action for young lawyers. The program featured ABA past President Robert Gray and Lonita Baker, counsel for the family of Breonna Taylor. Further, we naturally understand that the issues affecting Black and Brown Americans have a disparate impact on men of color. So we too needed to hold a forum to share the pain of this unique community and discuss solutions. So on July 16th, we launched Beyond Inflection, a Men of Color Town Hall, addressing current issues of racial injustice and police brutality. This powerful program, held in partnership with the National Bar Association, WildD, and again Thomson Reuters, featured the state of Michigan's Lieutenant Governor, Garland Gilchrist, Paul Henderson, and Lee Merritt. I had the incredible honor to moderate this discussion as well. Then in mid-July, MOCP released a special video montage named ABA WildD Men of Color Take Responsibility Amid Racial Injustice, where we share sobering facts about the encounters of men of color with law enforcement and our individual responsibilities as attorneys. And unfortunately, due to the impact of COVID-19, we were unable to hold our annual summit in the spring. But we're looking forward to potentially hosting a virtual summit at the WildD Fall Conference and of course picking up with the summit in the following year. Lastly, although we certainly do not do this work for accolades or recognition, the project is incredibly humbled to have received key acknowledgement in just this bar year alone. On behalf of the ABA WildD, the Men of Color Project received the inaugural Diversity and Inclusion Champions Award at the ABA Midyear meeting in Austin, Texas, which was presented by the Commission on Racial and Ethnic Diversity in the Profession at the Spirit of Excellence Awards luncheon. And just a couple of weeks ago, we were featured in the ABA Journal's Members Who Inspire column in a piece entitled Men of Color Project Co-Chairs Lead Conversations on Racial Injustice. Notwithstanding the unique challenges that this bar year has presented, we're fortunate for the numerous partnerships, collaborations, and supporters fortified along the way, and most importantly, those positively impacted by our work. The work of the Men of Color Project is just beginning. We remain thankful for the continued commitment to this cause by WildD leadership, as evidenced by incoming Chair Christopher Brown. And we are ecstatic to pass the baton to our next slate of phenomenal leaders, incoming Chair Jonathan Bogues and Vice Chair Marcus McGee. All information regarding our work can be found on the website, www.themenofcolorproject.com. Thank you for your time and support of MOCP. Here's to 2020 and the outstanding work to come.
Thank you, Jerome and Michael. Y'all have done an amazing job with the Men of Color Project. And thank you to Tommy for spearheading and beginning that amazing program. So the next item of business is debate on WildD Resolution 20-8YL. Now, this resolution will not be considered by the ABA House of Delegates at this annual meeting, but could potentially be considered by the House of Delegates at a future meeting. Now, this resolution urges the Code of Conduct for United States judges apply to the United States Supreme Court justices. The code goes beyond basic ethical requirements to create uniformity regarding recusals and participation in political activities. Now, for the purpose of moving YLD Resolution 20-8YL, the Speaker recognizes Council Delegate Josephine Bond, ABA YLD Affiliates Director and Resolutions Team Member from Washington, D.C.
I move the adoption of Resolution 20-8YL.
Is there a second?
Second.
Delegate Bond, you have 6 minutes. Would you like to reserve any time for rebuttal?
I would like to reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal.
You have 4 minutes.
Madam Speaker and distinguished delegates, my name is Jo Bond, and I'm an attorney with the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation in Washington, D.C. I am the affiliates director this year and the D.C. Young Lawyer in the ABA House of Delegates. I rise today to move the adoption of Resolution 20-8YL. Federal judges are bound by the Code of Conduct for United States judges, except for the 9 justices of the Supreme Court. These are the only judges that the code does not apply to. The code creates uniformity on recusals and participation in political activities in a post-Watergate world. The Code of Conduct for United States judges is a set of ethical canons set forth by the Judicial Conference of the United States. The code promotes integrity, independence, impartiality of the federal judiciary. It applies explicitly to most United States appellate and trial court judges, except for the 9 justices of the United States Supreme Court. Under this code, federal judges are instructed to uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary, avoiding not only impropriety, but the appearance thereof, performing the duties of their offices fairly, impartially, and diligently, and avoiding extrajudicial activities that would be inconsistent with the obligations of judicial office, and in refraining from political activity. The code contains no enforcement mechanism and is not designed as a basis for civil liability or criminal prosecution. However, judges who fail to adhere to the code may be disciplined or barred from an existing case. The Supreme Court has not promulgated its own formal ethical code. The court has, however, voluntarily resolved to comply with certain judicial conference regulations regarding issues with judicial officers. This resolution does not seek to create liability for the Supreme Court justices, but rather it seeks to provide further adherence of an ethical code and continued uniform standard of recusal and independence to the highest court of this country. No person should be above the ethical canons we hold each other in this profession to, including the United States Supreme Court. I urge you to support this resolution.
For the purpose of opposing YLD Resolution 20-8YL, the Speaker recognizes Council Delegate Holly Welch, 28th District Representative from Cheyenne, Wyoming. Delegate Welch, you have 6 minutes.
Hi. My name is Holly Welch. I am the District Representative for Wyoming and Colorado. And I'm coming to you from Cheyenne, Wyoming. I've been asked to speak as the opponent on this resolution, and I agree very much with the purpose of the resolution, and it's only in its form that I disagree with. I very much believe that the Supreme Court should have a code of conduct, and I find it very concerning that it currently does not. We've seen time and time again where there have been instances that the Supreme Court should have had a code of conduct, and that some of the things happening would have been prevented by a code of conduct. My issue with this particular resolution is that it asks for the code of conduct that applies to federal judges to simply then apply to the Supreme Court justices. And I do not believe that this is a one-size-fits-all resolution. And my concern is having Congress make these rules and then impose them upon the court. because the court has the ability, and obviously that's what they do, is interpret these laws and determine whether or not they're constitutional. I fear that the risk of it being considered unconstitutional for Congress to imply these rules upon the Supreme Court is too high. What I would prefer is essentially a mandate from Congress for the Supreme Court to instead impose its own rules. And then the Supreme Court is being bound by their own rules, or if not making their own rules, in creating a committee who then creates those rules for the Supreme Court to adopt. And so it's not that I believe that the Supreme Court should be running around without a code of conduct. It's that I simply don't believe that this one is a one size fits all, and that it can apply because the federal rules are really so that these cases can then be taken on by a different judge. And that's simply not possible with the Supreme Court. And I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Welch. Now, for the purpose of debate, the speaker recognizes the next proponent speaker, Delegate Chris Jennison. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker Davis. We must ascribe the ideals of the profession to all who practice in this profession and all who uphold the rule of law, be it a district court judge or a Supreme Court justice. We have all heard stories of partisanship in the Supreme Court, excuse me, but I think what is more troublesome is reports of financial disclosures from justices across the spectrum as well that relate to the decisions that they take on. And so for that reason, I ask that you support this resolution and speak in favor as a division of ethics for the Supreme Court, because they must be held to the same kind of accountability that we all are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, for the purpose of debate, do we have our next opponent speaker? Seeing none, the speaker recognizes the next proponent speaker, Delegate Matthew Curvis. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm really starting to think I should have eaten lunch before I sat down for this. And with that in mind, I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. I just want to say that in my opinion, I think that adoption of this resolution and applying this code to the United States Supreme Court justices would lend more credibility to the Supreme Court. I don't see any other proposals on the table as it stands now. As the con speaker said, she agrees with the purpose behind this, and I think hopefully we all can. But this is the resolution before us now, and I think it's important that we vote to adopt this resolution as a sign that we, the young lawyers, agree that the Supreme Court should be held to high ethical standards, which of course they are, but this puts something in writing and it makes it more formal. And I think that that can only lend more credibility to the court. So with that, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further debate, the speaker recognizes Delegate Bond for a 2-minute rebuttal unless you choose to waive.
I will waive my remaining time.
Thank you. Delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now the question is on the adoption of YLD Resolution 20-8YL. This motion takes a simple majority. Please, once again, listen careful to the instructions. All those in favor of the motion say aye by using the voting function to raise your hand. Please vote now and keep the function up, please, as our tellers are counting our votes. Once I receive the tally from the tellers, we will be able to move forward. Again, thank you, delegates, for being so patient, and I really do appreciate our tellers this time. Thank you, tellers. You can go ahead and lower those hands. Thank you. Now, all those that are opposed, say nay by using the voting function to raise your hand. Thank you, tellers. You can go ahead and lower those hands. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. 107 to 32. Again, 107 to 32. Sorry, 107 to 33. We had one that was late, a late counted. So thank you to the resolution tellers for counting all of the votes. We appreciate it. The resolution is adopted. Now we will go on to the Legal Opportunity Scholarship Fund. The ABA Scholarships Program was created to diversify the pipeline to the legal profession by providing 3 years of financial support to law students of color. Started almost 20 years ago, the scholarship program has assisted over 400 students. In these unprecedented times, this amazing, amazing scholarship gives all ABA members an opportunity to show tangibly their support for diversity and inclusion in the profession, and to set up law student graduates like those on this upcoming video for success. I will say, as a personal privilege, I actually chair the Legal Opportunity Scholarship Committee, where we select the applicant, we select the scholarship recipients. And just this week, I actually had the privilege of surprising 2 of our incoming law students with their scholarships. And it was nothing but inspiring and transformative that these scholarships are truly changing the trajectory of people's lives, the trajectory of these students' lives. And I want you to listen as they share what that means to them, what this scholarship means to them.
My name is Noor Iqbal Kara.
My name is Philip Nelson Smith Jr.
My name is Efren Garcia.
My name is Kevin Goode.
My name is Jason Crow.
My name is Belinda Marin Bolin.
And I am proud to be an
ABA Legal Opportunity Scholar.
I would not be where I am, a Latina lawyer working at a top corporate legal department, if I had not received the ABA Legal Opportunity Scholarship.
As a son of Mexican immigrants and a first-generation Mexican American, I grew up near the Texas-Mexican border. And from an early age, my parents instilled the value of education and hard work but they were not in a position to financially contribute to my legal education. This is where the ABA helped fill that gap, and I am eternally grateful.
As a first-generation American college and graduate student, I was constantly worried about how I would put myself through law school financially. This scholarship enabled me to focus fully on classes and extracurricular opportunities, take out fewer loans, and graduate with having completed over 175 pro bono hours and over 300 clinical hours, working with immigrants and survivors of domestic violence.
This scholarship was a boost to my confidence. As an African-American male heading off to law school as the first in my family, to know that a group of strangers that only knew my story from an application that they received believed in me enough to invest their money in me really motivated me in law school to make sure that I did not let them down.
I kind of felt like, wow, there's like this organization, this huge organization behind me, the American Bar Association, that is determined that I'm someone worthy of investing in their legal education. So that not only tells me that I can do it, but candidly, it tells me that I must do it.
The scholarship fund and the work that the folks at the ABA have been doing have been vital, I think, in promoting inclusion and diversity in the legal industry. It's been a real rewarding opportunity to participate.
Since graduating from law school, I have made a commitment to give back to my community.
I'm always giving back, and part of that, those seeds were planted when I received this legal opportunity scholarship, right? I've been encouraged to pour and invest in the next generation of great students, and in particular students of color, to ensure that our community and the leadership of our community reflects the diversity of our community.
Such an amazing scholarship, and I implore everyone, if they have the opportunity or if they have the resources, to get involved, invest, even reach out to see if a law student needs a clerkship opportunity. When I tell you this is an amazing scholarship, it truly, truly is. Now, we will hear from Council Delegate Shanique Moss, ABA YLD Nominating Committee Representative from Detroit, Michigan.
Greetings from the great state of Michigan. My name is Shanique Moss, and I am your Young Lawyer Division Representative to the ABA Nominating Committee. As many of you are aware, during the 2020 virtual ABA annual meeting, the ABA will elect 6 delegate at-large members to the ABA House of Delegates for a full 3-year term, and 1 delegate at-large member to the ABA House of Delegates for a partial 1-year term. Some of you who are new to the division may be asking, what is the ABA House of Delegates and why should I vote? Well, the ABA House of Delegates is the principal policymaking body of the association to which officers, sections, divisions, committees, and employees are responsible. The ABA House of Delegates represents not only groups within the association, but also the legal profession as a whole. Its membership of 594 individuals is comprised of delegates who were elected or appointed by association members, state bar associations, larger local bar associations, sections and divisions, and other national organizations of the legal profession. The ABA House of Delegates elects association officers and members of the Board of Governors. Now you may be asking yourself, why should you vote? You should vote because your vote truly does make a difference. All lawyer members who have registered for the virtual annual meeting are entitled to vote in the delegate at large elections. I believe if all young lawyers vote, we have a great chance of increasing our voice in the House of Delegates. Remember that 5 or 10 votes can mean the difference between winning and losing, and it has in many elections in the past. In keeping with tradition, the ABA Young Lawyers Division has voted to endorse the following candidates based on each individual's contributions or involvements in the Young Lawyers Division, as well as their support of the division. For the 2020 Delegate at Large contested election, for a 3-year term with 6 seats available. The E-Board has voted to endorse Mark Agras from the District of Columbia, Dave Bienvenu from Louisiana, Pamela Brishna from Maryland, Adam Landy from South Carolina, Jamie Lowe from Michigan, and Myra McKenzie Harris from Arkansas. For the 2020 Delegate at Large contested vacancy election for a 1-year unexpired term with 1 seat available, the Executive Board has voted to support Lacey Durham of Texas. Now, while I don't have enough time to go through each individual's involvement with the YLD or the larger association, I would encourage you to visit the ABA annual meetings website, and you will be able to find a brief snapshot of some of the things they're involved with in their short bio. So now that you know why you should vote, what you're voting for, and who you should vote for, I want to tell you how you can vote. The 2020 Delegate at Large election will be conducted entirely online during the ABA virtual meeting. The dates of the election are from Wednesday, July 29th at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time through Monday, August 3rd at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. As I mentioned before, all lawyer members who are registered for the ABA annual meeting are eligible to vote. And those individuals will receive an email link from the election vendor at the email address that you registered for the meeting with. We encourage all members of the division to help us in having our collective voices heard by voting for the YLD endorsed candidates. Thank you in advance for supporting those candidates, and we look forward to our division having an even greater voice in the House of Delegates for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanique, for your leadership and always being a beacon of light in this division. Now we will hear from the Editor-in-Chief of the TYL Editorial Board. Thank you, Eli and team. When I tell you that was one of the most creative videos I have seen in a long time. So thank you for always stepping up and being a bright, shining light as well. I will definitely say you have kept Assembly entertained today. And so I appreciate Eli and your team for your great presentation. Now we will hear from Sheena Hamilton, ABA YLD Board of Governors, young lawyer, member at large from St. Louis, Missouri.
Greetings, ABA YLD Assembly delegates. My name is Sheena Hamilton. I live and work in St. Louis, Missouri, where I house my employment law practice at Dow Bennett LLP. I currently serve as one of your young lawyer members at large on the ABA Board of Governors. The board is designed to oversee general operations of the association as a whole. I currently serve as chair of the Board of Governors Ethics Committee. We review grievances from the membership regarding alleged violations of our code of conduct with the advice and counsel of our ABA Executive Director and our ABA General Counsel. I'm also a member of the board's Finance Committee, which has worked during this meeting to finalize a budget for the upcoming year. In doing so, and because of the global pandemic we are facing, this budget is even more fiscally conservative than last year. About 100 physical meetings of the ABA entities were canceled this year. While ABA leaders and staff have done an excellent job avoiding financial penalties, this affects our bottom line. We anticipate additional physical meeting cancellations in the upcoming bar year as well. For these reasons, we've targeted a $9 million reduction in the budget. One of the first steps the Finance Committee took was to reach out to the 5 largest sections of the ABA to ask that those sections forego all general operating funds for the upcoming bar year. Each of those entities generates some level of non-dues revenue. All unanimously agreed to forego general operating funds next bar year. We also communicated a 25% reduction in meeting and travel budgets for all general revenue entities. This includes the ABA Young Lawyers Division. Backtracking a bit. Last year, we revamped the ABA logo and implemented a new membership model with a reduced price due structure. In many respects, the new membership model has been a success. I am sharing my screen with you now so that you're able to view the numbers as a whole. We identified 3 targets to gauge success: total dues paying members, new dues paying members, and dues revenue. While we've excelled at the center target of new dues paying members, we're still only at 95% of the overall goal for total dues paid members on the left-hand side. In other words, we had some folks who chose not to renew their memberships. For new dues paying members, we had great success attracting young lawyers whose dues are a little less expensive, and there was an overall, again, price structure reduction. So while it is overall a good thing for the association to recruit young lawyers who will practice longer and arguably be members of the Bar Association for a longer time frame, it does result in a shortfall in revenue this year. The real gap we need to focus on as leaders of the ABA, as affiliate leaders, is membership. Membership is everyone's job. If you know someone who was an ABA member and is no longer, if you have a friend you think might benefit from membership, or if your firm might benefit from full firm membership, given the need for more virtual CLE attendance and rapid response to COVID-19 legal issues, from an entity like the ABA with the capacity to offer useful, practical content from nationally recognized industry leaders nearly immediately, encourage ABA membership. Should you have any questions, you can reach me at shamilton@dowbennett.com.
Thank you, Sheena, for always keeping us updated on what's going on with the Board of Governors. We truly appreciate your intentional reports and presentations to this body. Now, the next item of business is debate on HOD Resolution 10G. Now, this resolution was added to the agenda pursuant to Assembly Standing Rules 5.2BI, and it will be considered by the ABA House of Delegates at this annual meeting. Now, this resolution, it urges the highest court or bar admission authority of each jurisdiction to cancel and to not administer any in-person bar exams during COVID-19 until and unless the public health authorities determine that the exam can be administered in a manner that ensures the health and safety of bar applicants, proctors, other staff, and local communities are safe. Now, for the purpose of moving HOD Resolution 10G, the Speaker recognizes New Mexico Delegate Shasta Inman, Vice Chair of YLD Committee on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity, and Resolutions Team Member from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Madam Speaker, I move HOD Resolution 10G.
Is there a second?
Second.
Inman, you have 6 minutes. Would you like to reserve any time for rebuttal?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I would like to reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal.
You have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. This resolution is an important one. It is also a very specific, narrowly tailored one that allows individual jurisdictions to design their own solutions to the problems created by pandemics. Many of you may be concerned about the impact of the measures proposed here, worried they will change the bar admissions landscape for all future testing cycles, concerned that remote examinations will bring more chaos than comfort, or anxious that diploma privileges or other alternative systems will erode the quality of our legal practitioners. But the actions and solutions suggested by 10G are designed specifically to address our current global health pandemic, and the resolution urges the appropriate local authorities within independent jurisdictions to design individualized protocols around legal practice and public health programs in the future to be implemented in this and similarly dire future situations. What is best for New York is likely also not best for New Mexico. And Resolution 10G is not a one-size-fits-all dictate. It is instead an assurance that the highest court or other bar admissions authority in each jurisdiction retains the power to react as needed in public health situations. And it urges those bodies to use this authority to design their own system, complete with safeguards that will work for them. As outlined in the resolution text, these safeguards include not only public health concerns, but also the transparency of processes and protocols, as well as data collection stemming from those protocols, scoring changes, the fairness and equity of remote bar examinations, accessibility considerations, and other concerns. This pandemic has disrupted the lives of recent law grads even more than it has disrupted our lives as young lawyers. While the majority of us for the last 5 months may be working from home offices, attending court hearings and mediations by video, and learning new systems of electronic filing, just imagine what you would have done if we were in a global pandemic while you were studying for the bar exam last year, 3 years ago, 7 years ago. Imagine a complete disruption to your life, financial and career uncertainty, looming student loan debt, the stressors of not only your own health risks and the health risks of those that you love, but also the strains of caregiving duties for children or parents, and the additional challenges of working from home while daycares and schools are closed, and you may be facilitating distance learning for your kids. Not to mention inequity issues surrounding internet access and a quiet location to take a remote exam in the first place. These are just some of the issues facing prospective legal professionals in this moment, and something has to be done. This resolution simply urges jurisdictions to design solutions for these problems and safeguard the health of our future practitioners and the public at large by canceling in-person bar examinations until it is once again safe for people to gather in groups in real life. And it urges jurisdictions to create their own unique protocols to implement immediate emergency measures that promote stability in and access to our profession and ensure continued legal services for all. I thus ask that you vote yes on HOD Resolution 10G.
Hello? I think I'm having a technical problem.
Thank you. We do not have a principal opponent to speak on this resolution. The first delegate or other person with speaking privileges to be recognized by the speaker as an opponent may speak up for up to 6 minutes. Does any delegate wish to speak in opposition to this resolution? Seeing none, for the purpose of the debate, the speaker recognizes the next proponent speaker, Council Delegate Anthony Scioli from the Virgin Islands.
All right, sorry about that, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. I just want to thank Shasta for pinch hitting here. The reason that, just to provide some background, this is a resolution that I drafted this week along with Chris Jennison and several others from other entities, including the section of state and local government law and the law student division. And so we are grateful to potentially obtain Young Lawyer Division co-sponsorship here. This is a very important resolution. This is probably the most important resolution that you guys are going to be voting on at this assembly. We need to pass this resolution to send a message that we know the in-person bar exam is not safe. We've seen what's happened in Colorado, North Carolina, Missouri, and elsewhere, and we need to make sure that what has happened there does not happen again. One thing I just want to say is that you may have read on social media and elsewhere, people wondering, why is the ABA doing this now? Why didn't this resolution come before the bar exams that occurred this week? And I think many of you here know the answer, but the reason for that is that we just had no opportunity to do so. The ABA House of Delegates only meets twice a year in February, which is before COVID-19 became a pandemic in the United States, and in August. Those are the only times that when entities like the Virgin Islands Bar Association or the Young Lawyers Division and others can essentially set ABA policy. In the interim, policy can only be set by the Board of Governors. And we have been making the rounds. The reason I couldn't move this motion myself because I was at the National Caucus of State Bar Delegates to make this presentation. We encountered no opposition, and in fact, everywhere we've taken this resolution so far, we've been encountered with a tremendous amount of support for what it is we are doing. And so it is my hope that this assembly will overwhelmingly approve this resolution, that the Young Lawyer Division will join on as a co-sponsor, and we can get this passed when the House of Delegates starts on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to go ahead and correct my apologies. Anthony is an assembly delegate. My apologies. For the purpose of the debate, the speaker recognizes the next opponent speaker. Do we have a delegate that wants to speak on the opposition of this resolution? Seeing none, for the purpose of the debate, the speaker recognizes Chris Jennison. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Chris Jennison, and I'm the YLD clerk. I will be brief. I want to tell you all that we must speak up for those law students who are close behind us in entering the profession. We are truly in unprecedented times in this pandemic, and we can't accept past practice as the only option going forward. You may have seen this week that the remote Michigan bar exam was purportedly hacked. Indiana has switched to an open book email exam, and the DC Court of Appeals had opened a period of comment on diploma privilege. There are reports of disability accommodations being denied, sanitary products being excluded during in-person bar exams out of a supposed abundance of health for COVID, and there have been positive COVID tests after the in-person bar exams were held. The ABA's April position is no longer sufficient, and the House of Delegates is voting next week on this issue, which that position, whatever comes out of the House, will be the true position of the ABA. I'm asking that you speak up today here to be heard in that body. That body of its nearly 600 members, 50% are above the age of 61, and 3/5 have been practicing more than 30 years. They want to hear what you think of this issue. They want to hear your voice, and your vote today will be heard resoundingly next week. And I urge you to vote for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. For the purpose of debate, the speaker recognizes any young lawyer who wants to speak in opposition of this resolution. Seeing no further debate, the speaker recognizes Delegate Inman for a 2-minute rebuttal unless she chooses to waive.
Just very briefly, Madam Speaker, for additional points of information, this resolution was only added by Rules and Calendaring to the HOD this morning. And earlier today, the ABA Criminal Justice Section and Section of Dispute Resolution did vote to co-sponsor this Resolution 10G as additional information. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Now, delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now, the question is on the adoption of HOD Resolution 10G. This motion takes a simple majority. Again, please listen carefully to the instructions. All those in favor, say aye by using the voting function to raise your hand. Once our tellers have counted the votes, then we'll be able to move forward with the agenda. Just a reminder, delegates, please ensure that you're not, once you vote, please just leave the function until it's time to have the tellers lower your hands, trying to ensure we have get an accurate count of the resolutions. Thank you. Tellers, you may go ahead and lower those hands for me, please. Seeing all hands lowered, all those opposed, say nay by using the voting function to raise your hand. Once I receive the tally from the tellers, I will have them lower your hands. You can go ahead, tellers, and lower the hands of the participants, the delegates. The ayes have it and the resolution is adopted. We have 115 ayes, 14 nays. The resolution has been adopted. Thank you. And thank you again to the tellers. I definitely appreciate all of your work and your commitment. And I apologize, I keep calling you the election tellers because as many of y'all know, I'm the chair of the elections committee and of course chairing assembly. And I'm going back and forth with both in my mind regarding both committees. So my apologies for continuously calling you the election tellers. You are the resolution tellers. And so I appreciate that for y'all's assistance today. Now we will hear from Trish Rifo, ABA President-elect from Phoenix, Arizona.
So hello to the YLD Assembly. Saying hello to you all is always one of the highlights of the annual meeting, and I'm sorry that we're not together in person this year, but hopefully we will be at the mid-year meeting. You all have done an amazing job, your leadership, your staff, and your members in moving forward the work of the Young Lawyers Division in these challenging and difficult times. And I want to say a particular thank you to Logan Murphy for all that he has done to lead the division this year. A terrific job, Logan. Congratulations. And I'm very much looking forward to working with Chris Brown in the coming year as we move forward with the agenda of the American Bar Association and the Young Lawyers Division. The disaster legal relief work that you do is so important. And when we add to that the work that we need to do with respect to leading our profession through and out of this pandemic, addressing issues of racial equity and anti-racism, and working on lawyer wellness, as well as membership for the American Bar Association, we have a great deal of work ahead to do. I am excited about the coming year. I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and I thank you in advance for the help that I know you're going to give to the American Bar Association in the year that lies ahead.
Thanks, Trish. Now we will hear from Reggie Turner, ABA President-elect nominee from Detroit, Michigan.
Dear young lawyers, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about our beloved American Bar Association. I thank the nominating committee and the members of the House of Delegates for giving me this opportunity to serve the ABA. Our president, Judy Perry Martinez, President-elect Patricia Rifo, and Executive Director Jack Rives have thoughtfully included me in discussions regarding the challenges, opportunities, and successes in their stellar work to lead our ABA, and I'm grateful for their wisdom and diligence. For the last few months, I've been comparing the stress of the COVID pandemic, the recent law enforcement racial debacles, and the resultant unrest to the last time I experienced such anxiety, which was the 1967 Detroit riot, stoked by police brutality. My father was a Detroit police officer. During the riot, he was on duty 24 hours a day for what seemed like an eternity. I have vivid memories of tanks rolling down my street as the police and National Guardsmen tried to restore order. We could smell the smoke of the burning city from our front porch. After the riot, the police department created a Citizens Complaint Bureau, and my father was promoted to detective to serve in that unit and help to prevent the brutality from continuing. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I told my father that I wanted to be a police officer like him. He smiled, and he told me that he wanted me to be a lawyer like his friend Elliott Hall, who was a pioneer in the corporate legal community in Detroit. I learned from Elliott Hall, Dennis Archer, and many other mentors that the most respected lawyers distinguish themselves by breathing life into the lawyer's oath. With the powerful words of the oath, we pledge to support the constitutions of our nation and states, to respect our courts and judges, and to practice law with integrity, civility, and concern for both paying clients and pro bono clients. Young lawyers are the future of our profession. I'm confident you will continue the best traditions of the ABA. I'll work with you to strive to fulfill the expectations in the oath as I'm your president-elect and president of the ABA. I will strive to listen and learn from the Young Lawyers Division and ABA members generally in our sections, divisions, and other entities in the effort to understand how we can collectively and collegially fulfill the ABA's mission to serve equally our members, our profession, and the public by defending liberty and pursuing justice as the national representative of the legal profession. Thank you and best wishes to all for health and peace in this challenging time.
Thank you. Next, we have our YLD Chair-elect for the 2020-2021 year, Troy Portis.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Troy Portis, and I've had the distinct honor and privilege of serving as your ABA YLD Secretary. I hope that each of you and your families are well during these unprecedented times. I'd like to start out by saying, Logan, congratulations on the conclusion of your bar year. Chris, I'm looking forward to working with you during this upcoming bar year. I'm here to give you just a taste of what you can expect during the 2021-2022 bar year. During the beginning of that bar year, we will be faced with some brand new challenges. It is up to us as young lawyers to remain resilient during this brand new renaissance. I am excited and elated to continue the division's legacy diversity and inclusion programs, including our Scholars Program, What Do Lawyers Do, and the Men of Color Project. I'm also very excited to launch a brand new Women of Color initiative. I am excited to bring home the title that I have come to know and love about the division, and that is the public service arm of the association, by launching a brand new public service project. I encourage each of you to reach out to me during the course of this bar year to let me know what your passions are so that you can help me push forward the initiatives that I have laid out for you today. Again, I hope that each of you and your families are well during these unprecedented times, and it has been my honor and privilege to serve as your ABA YLD Secretary.
Thank you, Choi. Truly appreciate your words and excited for your leadership in the next few years. We will now have the passing of the gavel for the position of YLD Chair.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Logan Murphy, the outgoing chair of the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division for the 2019-2020 bar year. And what a year it's been. The world, the United States, and the American legal system have faced unprecedented challenges that I can confidently say none of us attending this meeting would have been able to predict. But we got through it, and we not only survived, but we thrived during these challenging times. Ordinarily, I would take this time to recap the great work by so many young lawyers across the country, so many of you who are watching this right now. And there's been a ton of it. Join our website to see some of it. Peruse the awards of achievement, see what the great work that the affiliates have done. But because of this anomalous year in this virtual format, I'm going to keep it brief. A few thank yous and a quick message. First, thank yous, and primarily and first and largely to the American Bar Association staff, who have been a joy to work with and without whom we literally could not do this work. To my firm, Hillward Henderson in Tampa and Clearwater, Florida, for their years of unending support and tolerance of my unending travel. To my entire team of volunteers this year, from officers and cabinet members to committee members and committee chairs. My leadership style is to surround myself with people better and smarter than me, and all of you proved that true this year. To my predecessor and to my successor, Tommy Preston and Chris Brown, I want to especially thank you both for your friendship and unending support through this past year, and indeed through the past several years. To the chairs who came before me and gave me a shot at leadership, Andrew Schbach, who plucked me out of obscurity, Lacey, Anna, and Dana, thank you all. To all of you attending this, for participating when you don't have to, and for speaking up for law students and young lawyers everywhere. And especially to all of you who called, texted, and emailed messages of support during trying times. And finally, a special thank you to my wife, my hero. Monica has tolerated my involvement in the ABA for as long as we've known each other. It has been trying at times, but she's been a rock. And so if she ends up listening to this, a special thank you to her. Finally, a reminder, we're all on the same team. When faced with faction or disagreement, remember that in this work, our primary obligation is to support and speak up for young lawyers and law students, and for all of them, not just the ones who agree with us. I urge you to put that into action now as 2020 graduates face unprecedented uncertainty, not just in their careers, but also in their lives. We must find ways to support them and in turn leave the legal profession in a better place than it was when we entered it. So thank you all again. I appreciate this time today. I know Chris will vastly outstrip me during the next bar year, and I hope you'll support him in doing so. I look forward to hearing about all of the great work all of you do for the years to come. Let's get to work.
Hi, everybody. Barbara Maiden sending my virtual greetings to the YLD Assembly. No makeup and silver roots and all. Speaking of silver roots, yes, I am a former Young Lawyer Chair. And I do this every year. And every year I do a shout out to my Tennessee homies, Tennessee delegations, to say, very proud of you, Tennessee young lawyers. Keep it up. And speaking of roots, what I want to share with you in my time I have left, which is I think 0, is the following. Frankly, it's the primary reason I still show up, virtually or not, at the ABA. And it all started here with the YLD. The friends I made, the friends you are making, are friends for life. What a membership benefit. I can go from Nashville to Texas to Florida to California to Arkansas to Mississippi and way beyond and be with close friends. Friends I made as a young lawyer in the YLD, and as I've aged. Those friendships have aged, matured, and strengthened and are so important to me. Thank you, ABA. Thank you, YLD, for that gift.
William Hubbard, YLD Chair, 1987-1988. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed my year as chair, and I know you, Chris, will enjoy yours just as much. The ABA YLD is the heart and soul of the ABA, and we know that you will do everything you can to keep it strong. My congratulations also to Logan Murphy. Logan's done a fabulous job as chair, and we know that, Chris, you will maintain that standard of excellence with your leadership of the division. Best wishes to all. Take care.
Chris, we're all excited about your upcoming year as chair of the Young Lawyers Division. You've gotten a running start, not only because of the great work of the chairs in recent years, but also because we've seen your leadership skills demonstrated already in terms of the great work that you've been doing. So know that we'll all be rooting for you, and we're here to support you as you do your best each and every day for both the members of the division and all those in need who the division cares about so deeply. Congratulations, Chris.
Hello, YLD. Happy to join you in your virtual format as you pass the gavel. Laura Farber Chair, 2001-2002. You are in a unique position to speak up, speak out, and take action against institutions that have carried on racial injustice for so long. I encourage you to do everything you can to make change happen. Chris Brown, wish you the best. The YLD will be in great hands.
My name is Christina Plum, and I chaired the division in 2005-2006. If there's one thing that this pandemic has taught me, it's the value of having friends from throughout the country. I have turned to you, my friends from the Young Lawyers Division, from the past and the present, to get your perspectives on the pandemic and everything else that's been happening in our country. You've taught me to be a better citizen and a better lawyer. I look forward to being with you again in person, and until then, stay safe.
Hey, YLD. This is Kellyanne Clark. I rise from the great state of Texas. I was chair in 2009-10. I'd like to congratulate Logan on his year and welcome Chris to one of the finest establishments ever, being chair of the ABA YLD. Congratulations. I know these are challenging times, but as leaders, we are called to rise to the challenge, and I have no doubt that you and the rest of the YLD will. That you will keep this organization strong and drive it into the future. I am proud of the work that you are doing and can't wait to see what y'all are doing next. Have a great day.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mario Sullivan from the great state of Chicago. I was chair 2013-14. I want to congratulate Logan on a great year and congratulate Chris on the upcoming year. We look forward to seeing all the things he has planned for the Young Lawyers Division.
Hey, this is Andrew Schbach, chair of the YLD in the 2014-2015 bar year. And I just wanted to say a couple quick words to congratulate you, Chris Brown, on moving into the chair position. Very excited for your year, looking forward to all that lies ahead. I know that you will do a great job and keep the young lawyers' best interests at heart. Please know that I and all the other past chairs are here to be of help to you. So if you ever have any questions, need events, need to pick a brain, or just talk out loud for a little bit, please know that I'm always happy to chat, and I imagine many of our compatriots are as well. Anyway, welcome to the club. Congratulations. I look forward to seeing all the great things you have in store for this upcoming year come to fruition. Bye.
Greetings, YLD. My name is Lacey Durham, hailing from the great state of Texas. I served as chair of this august division from 2015-2016. Chris, it's my pleasure to welcome you into the fold as you ascend to chair. I offer you my supporting hand and listening ear in all that you do. I challenge you to remain steadfast in your commitment to offer programming and leadership opportunities for young lawyers as they bridge the gap in the first few critical years of practice. I encourage you to remain steadfast and dogged in your approach to increase the pipeline for diversity, inclusion, and equity in the Young Lawyers Division. And I hope that you always keep at the forefront the unyielding commitment to do good for our members, the public, and the legal system. The task before you is not easy, but just like many of us that have come before, it can be done and done well. I wish you a fantastic year.
I'm Anna Romanskaya from San Diego, California. I chaired the division in 2016-2017. First to Logan, congratulations on an incredible year. Certainly one filled with challenges and pivots, but you have certainly led the way, my friend. To Chris, congratulations on stepping into those shoes. I know that you will lead with perseverance and poise. I look forward to your leadership and everything else that the division has to bring.
Hi everyone, my name is Dana Horelik and I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. I was chair of the division from 2017 to 2018, and I'm currently one of your representatives to the House of Delegates. Logan, congratulations on a job well done. I know it was a challenging year, but you rose to the occasion and I'm so proud of you. Chris, congratulations and good luck as you take the reins. We might have tough times ahead, but I have confidence that the division is in great hands.
Hey, this is Tommy Preston, 2018-2019 chair. I want to begin by welcoming Logan to the Past Chairs Club. Logan, you have served in an unprecedented year, but you've done so with grace, passion, and an innovative spirit. To Chris, we're so excited for your leadership this year. You will leave an immeasurable impact on our association and the profession. We're all rooting for you. We're excited and proud of you, and know that we're all here to support you in any way that we can.
And finally, I'm Logan Murphy, this year's chair. Chris, you've been a great friend for the last several years. I am proud and excited and honored to officially pass the gavel to you as chair of the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. Congratulations. I look forward to seeing all that you accomplish.
While I greatly regret that we cannot be together today in Chicago, I am still brimming with gratitude. Thankful for this opportunity to address you, and even more thankful for the opportunity to lead this great division over the coming year. I'm also thankful to my wonderful family who has supported me every step of the way. And last but certainly not least, thankful to my ABA and YLD friends and leaders who have come before me and helped me prepare for this role. Originally, I had hoped to use this speech to tell you about the specific plans we have for the coming year, from providing resources and exploring policies to tackle student debt, as well as elevating the profile of our wellness initiatives by creating a wellness director position and a larger wellness team focused on the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of our country's young lawyers. But let's face it, the elephant in the Zoom is that our country and our profession are facing unprecedented times. I'm sure I won't be the first person to say today that our profession, and specifically this organization, will emerge from the other side of the pandemic stronger than before. But I do sincerely believe that sentiment, The Stoic Seneca said, "Misfortune is virtue's opportunity." And over the coming 12 months, I guarantee we will have plenty of opportunities to prove the fortitude of our virtue. The pandemic has forced our hand to do things that we've been talking about for a long time. Increase our engagement with mailbox members, provide guidance for an increasingly paperless and virtual legal profession, as well as rethinking legal education from the ground up, including the bar exam. But this isn't just an opportunity. As leaders of the profession, we have a responsibility to tackle these issues. Leaders seek challenges, and while being ABA YLD chair during a pandemic probably isn't the first thing I would have chose, I do welcome this coming year because we put together a fantastic team to tackle these critical issues. Through all of this work, however, we cannot forget that our country is also at an inflection point when it comes to racial justice and equality. And while I would like to believe that the long moral arc of the universe does bend towards justice, I cannot leave something so important to fate. As lawyers, we must remember that we are to be stewards of the rule of law, and we must work to do our part to ensure that that moral arc does indeed bend towards justice. I don't believe that we can do this without being respectful of one another and without creating a truly inclusive environment. So when I think about all of the opportunities to do good over the coming year, I know it might sound crazy, but I can't help but hear Eliza Hamilton singing, "Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now." And believe me, there's more than enough work to go around. If you want to be part of the change that we are going to create, then you will have that opportunity, but you'll have to be in the Zoom where it happened.
Thank you, Chris. Wow. I cannot believe that this bar year is almost over. The year really did. It went by so fast. But I'm very proud of all that we accomplished. When I decided to run for ABA YLD Assembly Clerk, I knew I wanted to accomplish, some of my priorities that I really wanted to move forward the needle on. Little did I know at that time that much of my year as Assembly Speaker would occur during COVID-19 and, during a time when our nation has been thrust into very uncertain times and just very, very challenging times. However, in spite of the challenges, we were able to accomplish a lot together. One of my priorities was to make Assembly more accessible. We were able to accomplish this by adapting to constantly changing technology. And to think, I felt a little sense of accomplishment when I was able to get staff to agree to broadcast one resolution through our social media platform at this when we were supposed to do in person in Chicago. And I was just so excited about that, right? I would have never thought that I would have the honor to preside over the division's first ever virtual assembly. However, I am very proud of how the team rallied to ensure that all the delegates were properly certified, all the presentations were prepared, all delegates received training and the resources to maneuver the virtual platform. And so I wanted to thank the team for all of their hard work. I really, really appreciate it. Another priority was to provide the membership with a forum to discuss highly relevant resolutions and really to prepare the next generation of leaders. If we've learned anything over the last few years, it really is knowledge is power. And in order to empower the division and its members to use its democratic right to participate. So we conducted a successful speaker series with current and past leaders in the division to share how members can maximize their participation in the policymaking process of the division. We also partnered with the House of Delegates Rules and Calendar Committee to assist young lawyers in understanding and how to be prepared and how to prepare their resolutions, not just for the YLD, but for the House of Delegates. So I wanted to thank Christina Plum for that partnership and for her amazing friendship. Lastly, I worked with the election working group to lay the foundation to update election guidelines that will be voted on by council next bar year. Now, these updates are based upon gaps and opportunities that were presented during this past few election cycles. And so I'm really excited to see the works there from next year's council's meetings. I'm proud of all of this and more that we were able to accomplish this past year. None of this would have been possible without the support of some exceptional people. And I'm trying my best to make sure that I include everyone in my message. So first, I want to thank all the former speakers, La, Danny, Dave, as he's sitting beside me, Shanique, Myra, Daiquiri, for your leadership and for your friendship. You blaze a trail for lawyers like myself to have a high standard of excellence and ethics, and I appreciate you always pushing me to ensure that the governance process is intact. Next, I want to thank my family for their unwavering love and support. I know that you're watching Assembly virtually from home in Arlington, Texas, because they've been texting me. To my dad, thank you for always being patient with me, especially over the last few months as I've been working tirelessly on this virtual assembly. And to my mom, I appreciate all your prayers, especially being from the South. I get a lot of long prayers. And so I appreciate the prayers and support, especially when I'm stressed. And to my baby sister, thank you for setting up my parents' Zoom because they actually have been able to attend every single virtual panel that I've either moderated or sat on during this pandemic. And so I appreciate their support. I also want to thank Choi, Shada, Tam, Sheena, Shasta, Lacey, Asta for being not only my friends, but my sisters in this thing called the YLD. You have lifted me during this year as we faced some really difficult times. Your support, your feedback, your prayers have helped me get through these long days, and I cannot thank you enough. On a personal note, the unique challenges that this year brought, it shined a light on the needs of the division. The year has been exhausting for a lot of us, including myself. The position of a woman of color in leadership can often be lonely. This division is not immune to the unique hardships and challenges lawyers of color face, particularly Black female lawyers within the legal profession. Having your voice diminished or silenced, having your position undermined, and your authority as an elected official being disregarded by being left out of meetings regarding policy matters when you're the chief policy officer of the division are just some examples of what Black female lawyers and leaders go through in their law firms, in courtrooms, and across the country. It is these moments that true, mature, and effective leadership is so desperately needed everywhere, including in this division. Although we have a shared mission in this division, we have different roles and offices that provide a much needed checks and balance in our division. Success is only attainable if each leader respects the other in their different role. It is vital that the policy branch of the division and the executive branch of the division support one another in their shared mission. It's also important that each successor support their predecessor. Unity is the only way forward. It is my hope that we continue to learn and evolve as a division, as lawyers, and as people. It is my hope that women of color, or indeed any person that comes after me, is supported and lifted in their role by their leaders and colleagues. As the world around us continues to evolve, so must our division. Our profession, and especially this division, must continue to value and promote diversity, inclusion, and equity. We must do better by our colleagues by supporting them instead of diminishing their authority. We must do better by our elected leaders by listening to their input with the respect that is due to them instead of dismissing their voices. We must do better by educating ourselves, by rebuking unconscious bias and racism within our own ranks. We must ensure that our actions reflect this division's and the association's priorities and goals. It is my immense hope that we will and we can rise above the things that separate us and divide us. I still believe that we can live up to the promises that we state so often and debate in this body, that no matter your circumstances, your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, or ethnicity, that this division is a place where those differences are embraced, valued, and legitimized. We are the future of the profession, and it is imperative that we continue to push the envelope and uphold the rule of law and advocate for all, including our own colleagues. It is our moral and ethical responsibility as attorneys. Thank you for giving me this platform, for entrusting me with this role, as I have served this year as your Assembly Speaker. It has truly, truly been an honor. Thank you. Now, Chris, congratulations on being Speaker next bar year.
Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for being here today and engaging with this association and with this division. My name is Christopher Jennison, and I am your incoming Speaker of the Young Lawyers Division. I couldn't be more excited to work alongside each of you and work with each of you to advocate for young lawyers and the future of our profession. I am eternally grateful to those of you who have helped me become the person I am today. And at the top of that list is my wife, my parents, and my 16-month-old daughter, Ruth. 2 years ago, I announced that I was running to eventually be Speaker of the division. In that election, I spoke with so many of you and your colleagues about why you're involved in the ABA, what your professional goals are, and what drives you. It was great to learn about and from all of you. I learned about those of you who struggle with the choice between paying toward the crushing weight of your student debt or paying your bills on time. Those of you who are parents and young lawyers who struggle to survive in an antiquated legal education system and legal profession while juggling other obligations. And those of you who have suffered mental health consequences while in school or under the constant pressure of filing deadlines at work. I have also heard from you that the YLD Assembly and ABA policymaking is like a shot in the dark or talking to the void. It does not have to be so. We do not need to debate resolutions that go nowhere. We do not need to debate resolutions that don't help young lawyers. Instead, over the coming year, we can and will debate substantive, impactful policy on items like dischargeability of student debt in bankruptcy, of accessibility of the association and the profession to individuals of all abilities, of how we, as the future of this profession and of this nation, can have a civil and productive discourse over the role of police reform. We will continue to think creatively about how the association can advocate for young lawyers who are being laid off with the burden of COVID in law practice, or the recent graduates who are standing on shifting ground with the ever-changing bar exam reality. We will not only talk about these matters among ourselves. I am excited to work alongside our HOD delegates to take resolutions to the ABA House of Delegates, work hard to pass these resolutions, and work hard to put them into place in society and in our communities. This may sound lofty, and it is. I have a terrific resolutions team lined up already and working hard, but we cannot do this work without you. If you have any ideas for resolutions or want to speak or advocate on any topic, please let me know. I promise to always be an open ear and a welcoming voice to anyone who wants to move this profession forward. My email is chris.s.jennison@gmail.com, and my cell phone is 301-538-5705. You may always feel free to reach out to me and expect a response, and you may always feel free to hold me accountable this upcoming year to the promise of accessibility, service, and purpose for the division's policymaking. Thank you, and let's get to work.
My dear Madam Speaker, it's time to celebrate your success on a job well done and your many years of service to the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. The measure of a leader is often tested during a crisis, but a good leader always leads with integrity and ensures those around has the tools to also succeed. I commend you on your unparalleled leadership during this unprecedented bar year, but mostly in surrounding yourself with those who see the greatness within you. My best wishes on your future successes. Congratulations.
Jamie, I just wanted to take a minute to congratulate you on a tremendous year as Assembly Speaker. In the long history of Assembly Speakers, none of us have had the job that you've had this year to create a virtual assembly. And I've had the pleasure of being able to watch you do it. You've done it tremendously well. And a compliment coming from this Vol to your Gator ought to mean a whole lot. So you might be my favorite Gator, but there aren't a whole lot of people on that list, so don't get your head too full. We appreciate everything you've done. We're proud of you and look forward to you joining the ranks of those of us in the former speaker category. Take care.
Hi, my name is Reginald Lane, Director of Sorority and Fraternity Affairs at the University of Florida. I'm so excited today to congratulate two of our Greek alumni, as they wrap up their time as Speaker and Chair of the American Bar Association's Young Lawyers Division. We are so proud of Jamie Davis for her term as Speaker and Logan Murphy for his term as Chair. We know that you all have done great things in your roles, and we wish you nothing but success for the future. And as always, go Gators.
Hi, Jamie. This is Myra McKenzie Harris, former ABA YLD Assembly Speaker, and I'm dropping you this note to say congratulations as you conclude your service as ABA YLD Assembly Speaker. You have faced unprecedented challenges this year, and you have met them all with excellence and with grace. For that, the division is better off for having had you serve as Speaker. Since I've known you, almost about 10 years now, you have always been excellent in all that you have done. I expect to continue to see that excellence as you prepare to serve as the Young Lawyers representative to the Board of Governors in 2 years. Congratulations again. Job well done.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dave Scriven-Young. I was the YLD Assembly Speaker in 2014 to 2015, and I just wanted to congratulate Jamie Davis on a great year as Speaker. I know this was not the assembly that you wanted, Jamie, but you've done a tremendous job in putting this virtual assembly together. So congratulations to you on a fantastic year. And welcome, Chris Jennison, as you ascend to the speakership. I know that you're going to have a great year as Speaker as well. So hope everyone has a great assembly. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you to all the delegates that have stayed on and are engaged, and I really, really appreciate it. The goal this year really was to streamline regarding assembly. I really wanted to ensure that we utilize this technology, this platform, and try something different, highlight different committees and boards that we don't ever see, and really highlight some young lawyers that typically work behind the scenes and that really don't want to shine. But I always try to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to receive their accolades and their flowers. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our first ever virtual assembly.
This is Daryl Wilson, YLD Scholar Delegate from Mississippi, and I move that we adjourn this first virtual YLD Assembly.
Second.
Was there a second?
Yes. That was a second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second to adjourn the first ever virtual assembly. Thank you to all. Sorry, we have to vote on it, don't we? I guess we can go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor, you can go ahead and raise your hand using the voting function. Thank you. You can go ahead and lower the hands. All those opposed and want to continue to stay on with the virtual meeting, raise your hand. All right, well, we just have one. Well, seeing that it has been moved, properly seconded, voted upon, I am just really excited, but I'll go ahead and adjourn the first ever virtual meeting. Again, thank you to everyone for your engagement and for your partnership. Please stay safe and healthy during these times, and I wish you well. Thank you and have a blessed day.
case. Sarah, are you there?
Yes, I am. What's up?
Hey, we're gonna run this a little bit in case anyone's buffered on the live stream. So we tend to leave the meeting up for at least 2 or 3 minutes. That way, because if they were delayed, if we end the stream, it'll end it immediately.
Okay.